All right, so we're going to get started. We do this each quarter. It's a resume review workshop. And just before we get started, we received an incredible number of resumes that would take me very long to maybe a day to interview, to review. So I'm going to review a lot of them today, and we'll go several hours if we need to. But at the same time, some of the resumes that are very common are resumes of people that have never worked in law firms, that don't look like they ever want to work in law firms. And in those sorts of resumes, we'll review a few of those, but there's a lot of those. And so we'll review examples of that. And if I don't review your resume today, I may, there's a good chance I will, because we selected a bunch of different types, but these reviews will touch on resumes that are just like yours. So that's what I managed to do. Before I get started, this should have been emailed to you before the webinar. And this is an example of some resume rules that are really important if you want to get a position. And bar positions, by the way, like the way I review resumes is that we're a placement firm that only does law firm placement. You may have a resume that would be very good for in-house. I will critique a few of those resumes today. You may have a resume that would be very good if you were working overseas because you're from overseas in a different country, in many cases where English is not the primary language. I'll review a few of those, but those are very difficult types of attorneys to place in permanent law firm roles. What's useful about this, what will be very useful today, is that I will go into a lot of detail about what you need to do to make your resume as good as it possibly can be. During the webinar, this is the live webinar. You can certainly ask questions. I will refer to them from time to time. Some people may have questions about the resume while I'm reviewing it, and I will try to look at those as well. And after we complete the review of resumes, I'll take some time to answer any questions that people have. This article should have been sent to you as a PDF right before or recently. I decided that it would be useful to go over this real quickly before we start the resume reviews, because there's just so many common errors that people are making on their resumes that you should fix. And you really need to take this document and go through it and look at your resume from the perspective of these rules. Now, these rules are the most important rules, but as you do this, you will see in your resume all these problems and can fix them. And these rules apply to in-house attorneys, foreign attorneys, and others, but it's very important that you take a look at these rules, and then with your resume, which you may want to print out your resume even right after this call, you take a look at these rules. And these rules are just very important. These are the same mistakes that people make over and over again on their resumes. These are the mistakes that prevent people from getting jobs. And what will be nice about this review today is once you make the changes that I'm suggesting, if you want to get a job in a law firm, you're going to have a exponentially better chance, because this is all I do. I've been doing it for 25 years. I review hundreds of resumes per day, and based on the ones that follow these rules, people get jobs working for me. So in our company. So these are very important rules, and the more you can look at them and understand how they apply, the better off your resume is going to be. And the benefit, of course, is you're getting the focus of someone that does nothing but law firms. And the benefit, by the way, for anybody that's in a government position, that's in an in-house position, is that law firms are everywhere. They're in every city. They're in almost every street. They're very much part of every community in the United States. So it seems logical that would be your best chance of getting a position. If you're in-house, it's probably your best chance. If you're a law student, it's your best chance. If you're in government, it's your best chance. Now, from in-house and for government and public interest, employers do prefer people coming from those positions in similar practice settings. So it's easier for an in-house attorney many times to get an in-house position with another in-house company. But at the same time, they're unlikely to find positions in their geographic region. So these are some of the rules. I'll just talk about them real briefly. If you're applying to a law firm job, you really do need to avoid things about not practicing law. People will put things in there all the time. They'll say, I'm currently an entrepreneur. I saw one today where someone said they were running a muffler franchise. And your resume needs to show that you're committed to practicing law and not a lot of other stuff. So you certainly can put interest in things, but you have to really be careful about jobs that don't talk about practicing law, things that don't relate to the position, to what you're trying to do. Because if you do that, people are going to believe those are the things you want to do. Almost every resume. Now, what's interesting is that I reviewed before this call. I'm not going to go through tons of them, but I'm going to do a lot of law student resumes. The law student resumes are actually often much better than the practicing attorney resumes. And as a matter of fact, in almost every case, when you take the average resume of an attorney and you compare it to a law student, the law student resumes are better because they do things like everything on there tends to be about practicing law since they graduated from law school or while they're in law school. Everything on there doesn't have a summary. Summaries of your experience, and I'm going to say this stuff right now because I'm going to run through this fairly quickly when we're doing the resume reviews, but summaries of experience are almost talking down to a law firm. You're saying, you don't understand what I do. I have to summarize it. I have to use keywords. And attorneys inside of law firms are just going to evaluate you pretty much based on your experience. You don't need to tell them this stuff. You need to let them reach those conclusions on your own. So the most effective attorneys will allow people and jurors and other side to reach conclusions on their own without forcing them to accept a conclusion. So what does that mean? That means that if you try to force someone to reach a conclusion, they're not going to pay attention to you. But if they read something and reach the conclusion on their own, they're going to feel like they own it. So you want people to feel like they own their conclusions about you instead of summarizing it. So I'll talk about that. Other priorities mean that exactly that. If you're putting other priorities on your resume, these are the 5 things that employers are looking for, the 5 most important things. A lot of things law firm employers are looking for. And I'm talking, by the way, when I say law firm employers reviewing your resume for a permanent position. So not a contract position, but a permanent position. And so I'm going to review a lot of contract attorney resumes today. So I'm going to help you with them, but reviewing for a permanent position and not a temporary, not a contract, permanent position. So this is what I do. I don't make contract attorney placements. I don't make placements outside of law firms. This is all I do. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So they're looking for if you can do the job, which is fine. But the biggest one is they're looking for is, will you do the job long term? And can you be managed? And do you want the job? So if you start putting things on your resume that have nothing to do with practicing law, and it's going to look like you have other priorities. If you're moving between law firms and public interest firms, and it's not going to look like you want the job. You need to think about that. Then these other ones I'm not going to spend too much time on, but you don't want to have, a lot of people today turned in resumes that were 3 pages long, 10 pages long. One was 25 pages long of an attorney that had been out of school 5 years. So you don't want to, when people do resumes like this, those resumes are confusing. They look like the person can't make concise arguments. It's not, a judge doesn't want to review a 200-page brief. They have page limits, 5 pages, 7 pages. And so this is the same thing you need to do with your resume. You can't make it too long. Some of this other stuff, entrepreneurs, that needs to be eliminated. You need to be careful if you're a contract attorney. We're going to talk about a lot of resumes like that today. You need to be very careful about making your resume look like you're a specialist and not a general. So just as attorneys, law firms hire attorneys you would hire a doctor that has specific experience. If you had a brain tumor, you would want to go to a doctor that does that, not a generalist that brags they've done orthopedics work they've done. They've been a phlebotomist. You wouldn't want that. And law firm clients are the same way. Unless it's a very small firm in a small town, almost every law firm is looking for specialists. If it's like a corporate law firm that does corporate in a small to medium-sized market, they may do corporate general. They may have corporate generalists that do M&A and finance and securities, but they're not going to want that person to also do litigation. That's very rare. So your resume, whatever you do, needs to make it look like you're a specialist, that you do one thing. Now, it can be litigation can be one thing, corporate can be one thing, patent can be one thing, but the more specific you are, the better off you're going to be. And you also need to realize that in all industries, just like the law, there's a preference for younger, more trainable people. So that's about the fact that law firms want you to be able to be managed. What happens to older attorneys, and we're going to review a ton of older attorney resumes today, is they have so many different jobs, and the law firms conclude that this person is going to be very hard to give orders to and for them to do the work. And I've noticed that in my own company. If I hire people that are very senior, when I was younger, they would scoff at getting assignments many times. And this is just how it is. Or they would eventually believe that they know better and things. So you have to look like you can be managed. A lot of things, if you're older, that's very important. It's not that you can't get hired, but it's you have to look like that. Now, a lot of people are listing all their bar admissions and things on their resumes. Some people list them at the very top when they have 20 plus years of experience. You don't want to do that. It's presumed if you're working in a market as an attorney that you are admitted. You don't need to tell law firms that. You don't need to tell them you're admitted to district court, which anyone can get sponsored and go into. But you may want to tell them that you're admitted in another state if you want. But even that, if that's recent, that's not a problem because it looks like you're going to move. Some people will say, I've got this MBE score that makes it very easy for me to move markets. And that's probably not a good idea because then the firm's thinking you can go anywhere. You have to be very careful. We'll see a bunch of things today of people that have more than 5 years of experience that put that at the very top of their resume for their law school. If you have more than 5 years of experience, your people don't care about your education anymore for the most part. They're not even going to ask for grades when you apply to firms. They may, but before making an offer, but most of the time, unless it's a very large firm, they don't care. All they care about is your professional competence, and law school is over. Like, you cannot worry about that. You can say you went to a really good law school, or you went to law school and where you went and how you did at the bottom of your resume. But the only thing employers care about at that point is the fact of what you're doing. And again, I see attorneys that went to schools that aren't that well regarded. It could be third or fourth tier law school, but they wind up at great firms and they're just as marketable after a couple of years of training there as they would be if they'd gone to a great law school, maybe a little bit less marketable, but not much. And so it doesn't matter. And then a lot of people list all these activities in law school, like they were a member of this association and this association. No one cares. You only want to list really good things on your resume if you're looking for a position. What that means is you don't want to say you're a member of an association. You don't want to, it's sending people down a rabbit hole that has no meaning and no one cares. You should be, and if you highlight your GPA, some people will write, I got a 3.1 in law school, put me in the top 40% or something. Again, you don't want to highlight that sort of stuff. You want to not address your weaknesses and the things that you haven't done well. Every law firm tries to hire people that don't address their weaknesses. And what does that mean? If you had a lawyer, you wouldn't want your lawyer coming in and saying, hey, I win 50% of all my trials, or my clients, this is some of their huge weaknesses, and you should be aware of them. You don't do that. Lawyers don't respect that. Same thing with skills. People will say, I know Microsoft Word. I'm capable of capable of doing searches on Westlaw. These are things that every attorney does, and you don't want to list. And I could go on and on. But some people even put that they know how to use email. A lot of resumes do. It's crazy. Don't tell people references are available. That means if references weren't available, that would concern them. So just don't put references are available. It's presumed. If they want references, they will basically not. It's ridiculous. And it's just almost like condescending. If you have an illegal job, you don't want to put titles that don't help you. So a lot of people, there's literally, I was working on it yesterday, there's hundreds of titles that people have in law firms that aren't attorney jobs. There's contract attorney jobs, there's per diem attorney jobs, there's managing attorney, which is not an associate attorney jobs. There are all these different titles that have nothing to do with that. So you don't want to put the titles on your resume. I'll talk to you about how to do that. You can put you're an attorney, or you can just put you don't have to put your title sometimes if you were doing that. You just put the fact that you worked at this firm from these dates and let people figure it out if they want. There's consistency. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about upward mobility if you can. So we talked about the weaknesses, and I'm almost done with these. People want to think that you're continually improving, not going downhill. So that you're reaching some sort of realization that there's something that you're missing in your current position that you're not doing. And then if you did well as a foreign attorney at a foreign law school, that can be helpful, but you need to tell people what that is. Summarization experience, we'll talk about that. Solo practitioners, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about a few of those resumes today. The problem with solo practitioners is the same thing I talked about earlier, which is the being able to be managed. Why would a solo practitioner that has 20 years of experience as a solo want to go work in a law firm where someone's going to manage them and they're not going to have their freedom? So you have to talk about that. Omissions, if you put them, go at the end of your resume. And again, this stuff about weaknesses, covering that up, and you need to do that as well. And then so many resumes, I almost hesitate to talk about it, but you need to make sure that you don't have any errors or typos or bad punctuation on your resume. And a lot of people do have this. As a matter of fact, probably more than 70% of the resumes I review have these errors. You need to use Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid and all these different things, because when you make errors, you're not always aware of them. Even if you proofread yourself, you'll just go over different things. I was looking at something that I wrote yesterday and I saw that I wrote the same statement, like in addition, and then I wrote in addition twice. Like, people do stuff like this. So you need to really make sure, because as an attorney, you're expected to be able to write well, regardless if you're a corporate attorney or a litigator, and write things that are grammatically correct. So that's very important. So those are some of the kind of initial rules that I want to make sure everyone's aware of. I would very much, if you receive this, encourage you to run your resume through this and save this and run your resume through it anytime you're looking for a job, meaning 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, and just understand the stuff. Now, each of these I put articles in. I've written hundreds of articles, but about resumes, I don't have a lot. So I would look at these articles as well if you have any questions, because your job is to position yourself as someone who's very strong. So I'm going to start off with these resumes. I'll go through this group of resumes. I may have another group depending on time, how this goes, but we'll get started with this one. So this resume is an attorney that was a solo practitioner and is currently working at a law firm in addition to being a solo practitioner. And they've been doing that since 2001. And then now they're working at this different firm, and this is what's going on. So just to start, I said this earlier, but you don't want to list the fact that you're admitted to the bar in a state you're working. People know that. You don't need to list at the top of your resume as if it's the most important thing that you got admission to, you were sponsored and you got admitted to a federal district court. Any attorney can do that. So it's not really too much of an achievement, and it's just people don't care. It's expected. You have to be able to, in any resume, you have to know how to prioritize information that's important and do things that way. So what I would do here, this person also has put down that the firm was formerly this. I don't think anybody's probably aware that's reviewing this what the former firm was. You may just want to say you're at this firm from 2018 to present. You don't need to talk about name changes and all that sort of thing. It's just not relevant to that. I'm a little concerned about this person having all these different practice areas. So they're doing a bunch of different things. So this kind of resume, you can see here, they're doing all this sort of thing. Obviously, if you're a generalist, that's fine. You don't need to say where the location of what you've done. You don't have to put in the fact that it's just that, and then including entrapment by authorities regarding. So this, if you had 23 years of experience, you have to be very careful about what you list, because a lot of this is just presumed that it's what an attorney would do. So obviously an immigration attorney is going to work with the Customs and Border Attention. So this person is also saying they're doing immigration law, but then they talk about matrimonial criminal cases, which is a little bit problematical. Then they talk about litigation, immigration, and all these different things. And then these different sort of things are maybe not that important. So what I would recommend for this particular resume is really figuring out a way where you can talk about all your experience very quickly. The other thing I don't understand with this resume is a person been a solo practitioner since 2001, but then they were an associate from some date to 2016, and then working so it looks like they've had a bunch of different positions, and I don't quite understand that. They were a senior associate of 2000 to 2002, and then they were a solo practitioner from 2001. So none of these dates make sense. It's very confusing. This has nothing to do with practicing law, so no one cares about that. And then the education is at the end. That's great. I like that this person's an electrical engineer. If they were doing patent work, but electrical engineering's good. When an attorney gets much older, many times you don't necessarily want to list things that show your age. So I would probably take out the electrical engineering. I would take out this. You just have to be careful. Graduate in 1995 is okay. I'm not telling you to lie. I'm just telling you to remove this stuff. So this resume is from an older attorney that probably hasn't done a resume in a long time. But the big deal is you have all these things on here that have nothing to do with the person's current practice area. And so you need to really drill down. What I would personally do with this resume, if I was advising this person and they were my candidate, I would say make everything about immigration. That's the only thing you could do that's going to save this resume, in my opinion. So you don't want, if you're trying to work in a law firm, what you definitely want to do is you want to make sure that you give the law firm a reason to hire you, and you have to basically show some sort of commitment to a practice area. That's what I would recommend. Talking about these different things, people you helped when you were an associate, is unnecessary. You could talk about your experience, but really what I would do is I would just eliminate all of these things, talking about your previous experience that has nothing to do with practicing immigration law, which sounds like what you did. And I would just say, you certainly could. No one cares, 26 Federal Plaza, the address. And so there's a lot of things that this person can do to improve their resume. I think that putting down that you're a solo practitioner and you've been doing that for all this time may be okay, but you have to probably you have to figure out a way to work it in there. Okay, so the next resume is interesting. This person is doing the same thing. They're putting all this stuff up here, meaning they're calling themselves a creative problem solver and all these sorts of things. They're a very experienced attorney, it looks like. They 15 and they're talking about all of these places where they're pending, and calling yourself an attorney at law is obviously what you are. There's no reason to put that in there. There's no reason to put your relevant skills. Law firms are smart and they can figure that information out. If you have a bar admission pending, I'm trying to see where this person is. I can't tell. If you're pending admission in some sort of market where it's just anybody that can waive in after certain years of experience, you don't need to list that. Now, sometimes, I don't know if this person's in New York, sometimes attorneys in New York will also have New Jersey and things like that. That's actually okay. And you want to list that if you're in multiple markets. Another time you might want to do that is if you were New York and California, which are really important states to be admitted to. So New York State, if you're in New Jersey, a lot of people will do that. It's okay to list anytime you're admitted to Florida or California. It's very important to list that. I would say to Florida, California, and New York. Waive in and not waive in, they have to take the exam, and they're very hard to get into. So if you are admitted in any of those states and you're working in another state, there's absolutely nothing wrong with listing those. But listing a bunch of other states sometimes is a distraction that you can, but you don't want to list that you're applying there, because if this person says they're pending admission in another state, then all the employer is going to think is they're probably going to try to move there. So that's probably not something that's that helpful. Okay, this language is not as good as it could be. What I would recommend now, and this is the new suggestion that I haven't talked about before, but I would recommend taking your resume, and this for anyone, take your resume, and let me just pull up something here if I can. Give me 1 second. I'm going to show you something really cool right now. So a lot of these statements, so let's just say here, like this statement here, there's all sorts of prompts and things you can try on ChatGPT. An example would be, you can try all sorts of things if you want, but can you make this statement more direct, less wordy and less assumptive. This is just an example. Now you can come up with your own ideas, but this is, you can see here, I just want to show you, this is a much better direct type of statement about this than resolve same, and that's not how people talk. So you want to you need to make your resume. And this is a very important example for everyone. And I want to make sure that everyone understands this, because this is one of the most important things you can do with your resume. You need to make sure that your resume uses language. Your resume needs to use language that people use. Your resume needs to sound like people talk. So so what I will say, and I don't want to be rude here, but the resumes of people that don't get a lot of input, which would be don't have their work reviewed or don't get jobs and things and have problems, they have these resumes where they sound like they're old English or something, some sort of language I've never heard. And they use words many times I have to look up. It's just insane. And you have to write your resume in the way people talk. This particular resume here, I don't know that I don't know if I've never tried this, but you may be able to run the entire thing through ChatGPT. Let me see how that works. And I'm just doing this, but can you do the same thing? Give me 1 second. 1 second. I'm taking this because I want to make sure that the same thing. So I'm typing in there, and all of a sudden, actually, this is not good. It's showing the person's. That's why I wanted to do it. But it's actually much better when you run your resume through ChatGPT. So I've never said this before, but I would recommend coming up with different instructions, like the one I did here, which is, let's see, this, but different ways to improve your resume using ChatGPT. It will help you tremendously because a lot of times people are just have all this language that just sounds crazy. So you need to talk to people talk, and you need to basically get guidance from ChatGPT. And I can't give you all of the suggestions today, but you definitely want to clean up the language. You want to make the language more real world. You want to do, it's not the one. Yeah, you need to use something like this. And you need to basically, if you can, run this resume. More direct, less wordy, less assumptive, and then cut and paste your resume in there and just see and eliminate to be able to do something like that. So just come up with different prompts. You could, let me just do one thing here. ChatGPT. The reason I'm showing this to you is because these are some examples right here. So this search right here will give you all sorts of prompts to improve your resume. You're still going to need to use the information I'm providing, but this is huge. If you can use, and again, I've never talked about this, but this is going to help you tremendously. This was just my prompt example. Had I had a lot of time spent on it, I would have done more, but you need to ChatGPT prompts for fixing resumes. This is just an example, and you can see all of these examples, all of this content you're getting right here. That is very helpful. Like, you just have all of this information where you can improve your resume with this. Listing all my rules, all sorts of things is going to help you if you are able to fix your resume. Allow their system to improve your resume. You could even say for lawyers. This is the Google search, but I would recommend now in this day and age using ChatGPT to improve your resume, just to eliminate the bad language, the language that doesn't work, and all that sort of thing. So this alone, I think, is worth the admission here, the price of admission, because this will help you tremendously in addition to all of the other rules that I'm providing. So this is actually interesting. So here, this is interesting. Anytime you have long language and things, it's better to just say experience. People don't like reading too many words. So I worked at this really awesome litigation firm when I was a young attorney. And one of the things they did that was so interesting is they did things like they would figure out how to eliminate different language and things from the things that you didn't need, to make things shorter, to make them so an attorney, a judge could just read subject headings that were supposed to be in almost every page or a page and a half. So you need to make things that way. So here this person is graduated from law school in 2015. So that's fine. But here, when they graduated, they were an executive assistant to a CEO. And it looks to me like then they've done all this other stuff. Telling someone you're working for a Fortune 500 employment staffing company is probably not necessary. You don't need to go into a lot of detail there. The reason is because if you graduated from law school and didn't work in a law firm, this is going to confuse any type of law firm reviewing your job review. It's basically drawing attention to the fact that you're not practicing law. I don't like at all this statement about doing something, and this is a mistake a lot of people make. I do not like at all the fact that this person did work as an executive assistant to the CEO and COO. You do not want to show anyone that you're not practicing as an attorney. It's just not good. And then you don't need to talk about the fact that you sharpened your legal writing skills. Of course you did. Any clerk that's doing that of course they're sharpening their writing skills. This is crazy. You don't want to put that. You don't need to put that you were briefed the judge daily on labor law things. I don't know why in the world you would want to talk about that when you're currently a corporate counsel as an investment banker. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second. But you definitely don't need to talk about briefing the judge daily. Your job as the writer of a resume, and this applies to everyone, your job is to keep the resume short and to the point. Anytime you put in extra experience and more sorts of things, you're hurting yourself. So you don't never put extra, and I will send these notes to everyone too, as well as these marked up resumes after this call, but never. So anybody that's on the call, I will send these markups and things to you, but you can print them up. But never put the people's tasks that have nothing to do with your current job. Why would you put that? It's not helping you. Saying you're an executive assistant is crazy. Why would you take a job? Why would you graduate from law school and become an executive assistant? People do this kind of stuff all the time, but I'm telling you, it's crazy. And then your job, you have to keep things short and to the point. You don't need to say what you did for the solutions company. You don't need to say what you did for the state Supreme Court. You can just say you're a judicial fellow. And then this person gets out and here they go. Their legal career is starting. And that's great. So they create a personal injury. Okay, no one cares about informing protocol. No one cares about this other stuff. No one cares about this. No one cares about the fact that you developed expertise. People are going to be confused if you say you're doing commercial lease agreements and then personal injury law. Like, why would you, come on, I just want everyone to understand, why in the world would you want to start talking about all of these practice areas? So you learned litigation here, and then all of a sudden you're doing commercial lease agreements, and then now you're doing employment law. This is insane. Like, you can't, if you are right now, whatever this is, I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is a contract job. I don't know what it is, but we'll just talk a little bit about that. If you're doing these things, you don't need to go into a lot of detail. You don't want to have all of these conflicting practice areas there. So if you are applying for a personal injury job as a plaintiff's attorney, then you certainly can do that. You don't want to say that you're a senior. You don't need to say that you're a staff attorney. You can just say you're a senior attorney. What I'm showing you now is this is a big deal, and I want everyone to understand this because this resume is a great example that a lot of people are doing that's very harmful to you. You don't want to draw attention to things that look like weaknesses. So a weakness means that you are telling people that you are, oops, that's not good. That you're, sorry about that. I'll fix that because I want people to be able to see this later. You don't need to tell people that you're moving around and doing all these different things. It's crazy. And satisfying New York and federal law, this doesn't make any sense. Of course you're satisfying law. These are things like you don't need to list all this. I would recommend with this particular resume, taking out all this stuff. You just say you're an associate. That's all. You don't want to talk about, people need to read your resume, and this goes for everyone. People need to read a resume, and the resume needs to have a scent that, meaning the resume needs to look like that you're being hired, that you're doing the work. You are doing the work you have always done, doing the work and have always done the work that you've been hired for, that you're being hired to do. So you don't, and that you're being hired to do work that you're trying to do. These are big examples of huge mistakes that people make on their resumes. Now, this person's particular resume, I'm not in any way attacking this individual person because everybody's resume, most of these resumes do this. Now, here I don't understand. So let me just see here. So this person is working as a staff attorney here. Okay, so see this. And again, if this person's not doing that, they're moving around between all these practice areas. So here's something my father once said, and then since that time, I've actually read this numerous times. But by the time you're 35, you should know exactly what you want to do. Exactly. You should not have any doubt about it, and know exactly what you want to do. And that goes for people that are anybody. So you need to look like that. And I'm just telling, this is just a piece of life advice, and I'm going to give a lot of life advice today. But you want what you want to do. And if you don't, you're not, the world will decide it for you. And you'll have to take what you get. So if you look at everybody that has different things and that's been very successful, whether it's a brain surgeon, or whether it's Elon Musk, or Elon Musk is, I'm going to do electric cars. That was his focus. And then it's after doing that, it's other things. But most people, Zuckerberg, I'm going to run this Facebook. Everyone that's successful knows what they want to do. So I want to tell everyone on this call, especially young attorneys, what do I do? My only job, this is my only job. I've been doing it for 25 years. I work with law firm attorneys doing one thing, and that's it. If I did 15 different things, I would never be focused, and I would basically go out of business. So everyone that succeeds knows exactly what they want to do. So if you don't know exactly what you want to do, and you've had a career not knowing exactly what you want to do, then you need to de-emphasize that, because people want to hire people that know exactly what they want to do. People want to hire these people that succeed, all doing that. It's just how it is. So an example, being an attorney is not enough. It's not enough for anyone. I just want everyone to understand, it's not enough at all. You have to know what type of attorney, where you're going to work, what type of practice setting, what location, meaning practice setting means in-house, law firm, whatever. You have to know practice setting, you have to know the location. There's a great book, and I talk about this a lot, but Think and Grow Rich. It's one of the most powerful books that you could ever read. And I'll tell you why. I remember being at a Tony Robbins event, and he was saying that everybody he knows that's read it and seriously read it is very well off financially in their careers. And the people that have read it every year are even better off. And the people that have read it twice a year are even better off than those. So this book talks about things like having a definite goal. You need to have a definite goal. If you really want something, you can get it if you'll figure out every single way to do it. It talks about being persistent towards that goal. And that's very important. So you need to be persistent towards goals. It talks about having desire for those goals. It talks about surrounding yourself with people that also share those goals, or surrounding yourself with people that you can learn from. It talks about eliminating negative things. So what are negative things? Like eliminating negative thought patterns, which are things like, and I'm telling everyone this because I really hope this could change your life. I've received cards from people before telling me that this has changed their life. So this will change your life, but it's eliminating negative behavior, negative thought patterns. Negative thought patterns are things like jealousy, fear, and cultivating things like cultivating self-confidence. So I'm not going to go in too much more into this, but my point is that anyone that succeeds in anything is always going to have a definite goal. And that's what the world respects. And that's what will get you ahead as an attorney, is knowing exactly what you want to do. I see all the time attorneys that I've known, that I've placed, that start their own practices, but they start them in, the ones that succeed start them in very niche things. I know one woman that started a practice in San Francisco, and or the Bay Area somewhere, and all she does is a certain type of software services agreement, and she has a website about it, and that's all she does, and she charges incredible amounts of money to do these and review these agreements. And there's nothing special about her. If she was trying to be all things to all people with her practice area, with her firm, she would fall on her face. Now she's an extremely wealthy, successful person. So that's all you need to do. If you want to start your own firm, you need to have a definite goal. I know one woman that is incredibly successful and does nothing but extraordinary ability, immigration petitions for people trying to get into the United States. That's it, just one thing. So this is the problem with a lot of these resumes, is they're just all over the map. And someone needs to look at your resume and think, this person will be good for this, not this and this and this and this. So you can't do that. You just can't do it. Now, I think right here, this person is a contract attorney. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. But why would you be managing partner and then a contract attorney? If it were me, I would and why did this job stop? And you advise the corporate counsel, an investment banker in the financial district. Like, why does everyone think they need to put these locations of where they were going to court, or it's just crazy. So this is actually pretty interesting, this experience. I like it. If this was run through ChatGPT, it actually would be pretty good. So I actually like this experience, and I think this is good. But deterring an illicit liquor and contraband violations by counseling restaurants, I don't know. Basically, all you need to do in litigation and transactional, this resume needs to just focus on something. Now, the staff attorney, you take that out. So this is a lot of work. I hope that this person fixes their resume, because if they do and they fix these things, they can probably get a decent job. I don't know that it's necessary to, why aren't you a partner anymore? What happened? So people are going to ask these questions, and you need to make yourself look strong. Now, if this is your firm, you need to continue it. So I've seen a lot of people with their own firm that suddenly put a drop dead date on it, like it stopped, and then they go in and there's nothing after it. So why would your firm die? So you have to make yourself look strong. So transactional law meet competition? No. Published thesis? No. And I'm sorry. Are you a member of the law review? You can write that down. People write these certifications all the time. Come on, why is an IP certification of any use to a law firm if you're not applying for that? People do this stuff all the time. This problem with this is this person's talking about all of this interest in something that has nothing to do with what they're doing. Again, people need to read your resume. No one cares about that you were the Model United Stations Alpha Delta chair and the cheerleader. Come on, no one cares. You have to remove all of this stuff from your resume. Now, it's anything that gives the scent of something else that's not related to what you do, that what you want to do needs to be removed. You just don't talk about it. You just basically say you work someplace. And this advice, by the way, will get everyone here tons more interviews. You have to do this, but anything not related to what you want to do will hurt you. So you may have different resumes for different practice areas. I don't care, but you have to talk about what one thing. If you don't talk about one thing, you're going to get taken advantage of by the legal market. You'll be paid as a contract attorney forever. You will not get jobs. All these bad things will happen. But you need anything not related to what you want to do needs to come off. So that's just it comes off. So you figure out how do you do that. Comes off. Meaning you don't write. You people can ask you. The job will be on your resume, but you have to remove it. Now, there's a lot of things that this person could do, by the way, like to talk about all of these things, because all the stuff conflicts. You could just say between, and this is what I would do if it was my resume, I would say between 2015 and 16, I held positions at the following firms, or whatever that date is, until this thing happens. That's all I would say. And I would just say you would have legal experience. I would have something related to that. So I would just put in-house counsel or law firm attorney and in-house counsel. I would put something like that. I'll just show you how you do it. This is for everyone that's had a lot of experience. I would just say a law firm attorney, firm associate, all right, and third partner, law firm attorney and partner, something like that. Then I would go, this is how you clean this stuff up. And everyone has to clean this stuff up. So you would say law firm attorney and in-house counsel. And again, I hope everyone sees what I'm doing right now, because this will change your careers if you're doing this, house counsel. And then you put the dates. That's it. You just say, hey, these are the dates of when I did it. So I did it between 2000 and 2017 to 2023, following law school or whatever. I've worked my primary experience and as a law attorney, concentrate with a concentration on corporate related work, whatever type of job you're trying to get, corporate related work for law firms, in law firms, and in three law firms, whatever the number is, and two corporations. Then maybe you say the names of the law firms, including corporations, and then you would just say, including, and whatever, something along the lines of who those were. Then you clean up all this crap. Because if you take people like in 15 different directions on your resume, what the hell are they supposed to conclude? If you just say this is going to look, you don't want people to think when they're reviewing your resume. And I'm sorry to go into so much detail about this particular stuff, but this is just crucial for everyone. This is one of the most important things that this person could do to get a job. And if they do this, people are going to pay attention, as long as it's directed at one thing. Hugely important. Primary experience has been as a law firm attorney. And again, this particular thing I'm doing right now, I hope everyone understands this and pays attention. I hope you pay attention now, and I hope you pay attention in the rest of your careers, because this is, and then you can just my primary experience, you just say a couple lines there, and I'm not going to tell you what to say. But by the way, I have seen this work. I know an attorney, and this is funny, but I know, Harrison knows an attorney that is 20 years out of law school, or almost 20. Actually, it's more than that. Attorney that is 25 years out of law school, or maybe even 25 plus years out of law school. And for the most part, and it has been switching firms from every 18 months for the past 25 plus years. And has always worked at 200 law firms. Always gotten another job. So I want everyone to really want to make sure people understand this. He's done litigation when he started out his career. He's worked in Ohio. He's worked in New York. He's worked in Chicago. He's worked in Sacramento. He's worked in San Francisco. He's worked in Los Angeles. He's worked in Orange County. And why so many jobs? Now, he does have some business, but not a ton. He's had so many jobs because he is a raging alcoholic, meaning every day during work, all sorts of times he's wasted. And people pick up on it fairly quickly. It takes sometimes it'll take a year. He'll stop coming into work. He'll blow deadlines. He will not make meetings in the morning because he's so hungover, he doesn't know what to do. But he has been able to get jobs every 18 months for the past 25 years. So as a complete drunk. So I'm not saying that as any bad statement in him. He's Russian, but he's not Russian. He's not Russian by blood. But anyway, the point is that this is what he does. Same thing. He just goes law firm attorney between these dates, and then he lists. I've worked at some of the following firms. Doesn't say the cities. I've worked at some of the following firms as an associate and partner. And then he lists some, maybe 3 or 4 of them. Firms as an associate. That's it. Firms as an associate. And he would say as a corporate associate, he would say corporate associate and partner. So if this works for him, okay, like someone that's worked in literally 17 to 20 firms in the past 25 years and is a raging, out of control, meaning he's certainly able to put on a game face problem. So if this works for him, it will work for you. And this is all he does. He is able to move between firms, between get new jobs all the time because of this particular skill. And he just does this. He just put associate, he will put associate and partner. That's a little different. And I may have done this resume for him. I think the reason he's got this is because I told him to do this, and it just keeps working over and over again as he bounces between firms. So please remember this. Please, if you get anything out of this and you've had a bunch of jobs today, this is the most important possible piece of things that you can get right now, because many people have had a lot of jobs. If you have a lot of jobs, what it looks like, and we talked about this earlier, if you've had a lot of jobs, what it looks like to people is it looks like you will not do the job long term and you can't be managed. So these are the last things in the world what you want people to think. If you're not going to do the job long term, then why should they hire you? You're just someone that doesn't do the job long term, walks into a law firm, makes a good impression, maybe the first couple months or weeks, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, gets restless and starts looking around and will end up at another firm and will leave people pissed. They will leave problems in their wake. They will, all sorts of problems. Now, what's interesting about this particular attorney, and I don't like to go into so much detail, but what this particular person does now, because he's worked with so many law firms, the only firms that he gets done, because he's worked, and again, I'm going to go back to the resume reviews, but because he has worked at so many law firms, the only law firms, and everyone knows him in town, and so many law firms, and everyone knows him, is that the only firms he's getting are small offices of national law firms, meaning when I say small, just where he's at now, 5 attorneys, something firms in the city he lives in. Upstarts and all those sorts of things. So those are the only people that are hiring him at this point, which makes sense because anybody knows him, but he's still getting into these large law firms. So I want everyone to understand the power of this, because this is what you need to do on your resume if you had a bunch of jobs. This is the number one piece of advice that I think everyone should follow. If this person can get all of these jobs with all of his problems, with all of the places he's worked at, and continually get jobs, so can you. Okay, so that's really the biggest piece of advice I can give you. Now, I'm wondering if this particular thing is a law school. Okay, so this is a new resume down here. This is a new resume. Okay, so let's talk about this person. This person, let me see here. Cornell Law School. Okay, this is not the same person. I don't know what this is or where this came from. Maybe these are additional publications. I think these are. So this stuff, just get rid of it. So that's, if this person went to Cornell Law School or went to Yale, that would be great. This is interesting, teach competitive gymnastics and cheerleading to children. So this is the same person. This could be fun. It could just be interest or something. So people like that kind of stuff when it's unusual. So if you have some other type of experience, interest or something, that's fun. But dropping all these names of schools and things is not something people are going to be interested in. You're talking about criminal law. Come on. This has nothing to do with what type of work you do right now. Okay, so this person went to whatever the school is. I like this. I think that, and what I'm talking about is a lot of these young resumes are actually much better than the senior resumes. So this person graduated in May of 2022 and they got admitted in July. I don't really understand those dates, but you do not put your grad. If you started work as an associate, by definition is an attorney. So let's talk a little bit about that. So if you're an associate, so people will put law clerk on their resumes, and law clerk means, in most cases, that you have not yet passed the bar and you are a law clerk, meaning that's law clerk means not yet passed the bar. So if you are working as an associate or attorney, then that means that you pass the bar, right? You don't have to worry about that. You just, that's what it is. So you don't have to tell people at the top of your resume that you passed the bar. And sometimes people will list the date if they're law school, to show people that they passed the first attempt. But here's the problem. So the problem is that passing the bar is the most basic of all requirements to being an attorney. Why would you make sure that you put this minimum barrier to being an attorney at the top of your resume? So people will often do this. You don't see resumes from people that went to Harvard and Yale and Michigan and these great schools telling people that they passed the bar. The only people that do it maybe are if you went to a law school and there was a low pass rate. You're very proud of that. But all that's showing is you just met the minimum requirements to being an attorney. You're an attorney, so don't put that. Come on. And especially at the top of your resume. If you put it at the top of your resume, and I actually remember this resume is a person got a job at a pretty awesome firm. So this is actually an awesome firm down here. But for whatever reason, they want to emphasize the bar. I want to tell you, do not put that at the top of your resume. You don't even need to put it if you're working as any type of attorney in a state. Now, if this person was admitted if they're working in New York and they're also admitted in New Jersey, that's okay. Sometimes weird states like Delaware, that's a very hard, or California, you can list that sometimes, but you need to be very careful about just listing the fact that you passed the bar. Please don't, or that you got admitted to a federal district court. No one, these are basic things. Okay, so here's what I like. I like that this person got a full tuition academic scholarship. Many times when people get those, it's very common that they got into a much better law school than this, but they took that. Here's some other problems. Other problems with this resume are that the person is talking about all of this pro bono stuff. So pro bono, working for free, working not for companies, basically shows you have other priorities. This may be something that you may think is really important, and I don't want to talk about what political party I'm part of, because I'm not. I have nothing to do with it. But when you start doing stuff like this, you're immediately showing, and I'm not saying that I don't approve of this or you being this way, but you're immediately showing that you are probably pretty liberal and have other priority and may not appreciate working for law firms that represent anyone with money and take their sides if they're bad or good, whatever. I may not work in a law firm. Now, I'm not telling you this because I think it's bad. Most schools, professors, whatever, are 90% of them, or 99 professors are very liberal. You can promote these sorts of values, but these are not the sorts of values that law firm partners, that successful associates have in law firms. You need to look like a law firm attorney. Here, you're obviously very excited about the fact that you're committed to justice. That's fine. And again, saying you're on the dean's list, is that the permanent dean's list? Were you on the dean's list one semester? Who cares? If you're a dean scholar, that sounds a lot better than just saying you're on the dean's list. Some schools will let you talk about being on the dean's list as much as you possibly one semester out of 6 or whatever it is that you go to. So these activities are fine. I don't know what the legal innovation semifinalist is. You do not need to say that you were the semifinalist in something. You only say it if you won. That's all. If you won, you're the finalist or you were the first place, you list that. The Hofstra Trial Advocacy Association, you don't want to list that. So that's something that you may or may not want to list. So I would probably take it off. The problem with associations are basically something where you just show up. You just show up and you're a member. Law firms know this. Why? Who cares, right? And you are a member. Now, you may want to list that if you, for some reason, if you think that if you're trying to be a litigator, but this is not the case with this person. This person is a corporate attorney, or we'll talk about that in a minute, a real estate attorney. So this stuff, anything that signals something different than what you're doing is perfectly unacceptable and doesn't belong on there. People need to look at your resume and think that you're doing whatever. They're thinking that you look like someone that wants to do that practice area. Now, certainly you can list these different associations if you want to. I'm not telling people one way or another to do it, but sometimes people will list the Muslim Students Association, these different associations. Now, this particular association, I think people will actually, is something that it will help you, but sometimes people will list stuff like Muslim, Jewish, people that hate each other, right? So Muslim, now maybe not in the United States, but maybe not, but long-standing conflicts between people, conflict. You just want to be careful sometimes about listing things. Associations signal that sometimes that you're on one side or the other. Just after this recent Israel thing, there's all these articles about people on the side of the Palestinians, and there was just a big thing at Harvard where somebody did something that was for the Muslims, and then they're being condemned, and Harvard's being condemned for not saying anything. So you just have to be very careful sometimes about signaling things. Now, this particular association, I think that is a positive thing to list, but sometimes it may not be. You have to decide what you want to say on your resume and what you want to get credit for. So this person is an awesome full tuition scholarship, dean scholar, like that's it. But you don't want to, no one knows what gold level means. No one knows what commitment to justice scholarship means. Okay, so here we go. Now we're talking about this person doing all of these different things. You don't need to say Bachelor of Arts. You say BA. So I just want everyone at BA. You can just say JD. You don't have to say Juris Doctorate and all these things. So people will put that down. You can if you want, but it's just, obviously that's the degree you got. So you could just say you graduated in mid-22 sometimes, but you can do whatever you want. So this double major stuff, economics. Okay, so what I would do here is actually, because this person is trying to basically get a job. This is very interesting. So this person is trying to get a position and probably doing something to do with working as a real estate attorney. So what's interesting about this is this person, if I were them, they are always correct, but I would probably list economics first, and then also majored in PPL. People don't need that. That thing is only going to be, you only put an abbreviation in parentheses like that if you're going to list it somewhere else. So that's just correct. So you don't put an abbreviation or anything unless you're going to list it somewhere else. And then, so I would put economics first, because this is about money and things, what you're doing in the law firm. So I would put that first. And then I like urban planning, because urban planning is related to real estate. So you have to think, you need to give people the scent of what you want to do. So I wouldn't say double major. I would say something along the lines of, you've got a double, I don't know, but you don't want to do that. Here's another problem. Listing that you were the dean's list for a couple of semesters is not going to help you. Why would you list out of 8 potential semesters, or I went to a school where it was, there were 3 semesters per year, which makes it 12. Well, why would you list that you were the dean's list only 2 out of 8 semesters? If that's the case, How did this person get a full academic merit scholarship? That doesn't make any sense. So you need to make yourself look strong. Like, you can't have people reach conclusions like, why did this person get a full academic scholarship if they were only on the dean's list twice? Public relations chair, pre-law society, all these things, no one cares. This is bridging a volunteer, a diversity and inclusion team. You can list this stuff, but again, and I want everyone to understand this. If you put things on your resume that show you're on the side, and I've written a book about diversity. I believe in it. I'm not against diversity. I've written an entire book, the only person ever to write a book about diversity in law firms, which is a pro-diversity book. But if I was writing my resume, I probably wouldn't put that on there because I'm basically, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with diversity. All I'm saying is you want to signal. Every resume wants to signal that you're interested in the type of work that you're applying for, and that's it. And that you're in the type of work. The big thing that I want to talk about that we spoke about earlier is that, can you be managed? Will you do the job long term? And if you're putting things up on your resume, that, let me just show you here. I'm going to cut and paste these things again because this is extremely important, especially for young law students or people that are young in their career. Let's talk about this. And this is, by the way, this is another thing that is extremely important, and it's extremely important for young law students. I see resumes all day, every day, of people that went to Columbia Law School, Harvard, and all these great law schools, and they talk about how interested they are in pro bono, and they start applying for jobs, and maybe they worked at a big firm when they got out of school, but no one's hiring them anymore. Like, they can't get jobs. And I'm just making the conclusion, which is reasonable, that it's because of listing all these things, because the same thing does not happen with people that don't list this stuff. So just think about that. Anything that you write on your resume, I just want you to understand that is going to talk about that you might not be able to be managed because you want to do something else. Anything that's going to talk about the fact that you're unlikely to stay because you have other interests, anything that's going to talk about, do we like you? I had a resume of a guy, this is after 9/11, and he was in New York, and he had gone to some great law school like Cornell or something, and I don't know, and done exceptionally well there, and graduated and worked at a big law firm for a couple of years, and then wanted a job. And he had stuff about all this, again, this is not where I'm coming from. I don't condone this. I'm not on the side of this. I'm just telling you the way it is. He had all this stuff about this Muslim Law Students Association and all these different things. And he didn't get a single interview. Maybe it was because people at that time were prejudiced against. So you have to be very careful. So what was that? Do we like you? I don't know why they weren't doing it. But other people similar to him were getting interviews. So you have to anything you put on your resume that makes it look like you can't be managed, people are going to question. So all this stuff, I want to be really clear. Saying that this person graduated in 2014, is that possible? Okay, so this sort of thing, saying you're a pro bono scholar for 3 months doesn't help. Take it off. Saying you're a law fellow doesn't help. Take it off. This stuff is reviewed and organized, voluminous documents. Come on, like this person, and again, every resume does this, but this is one reason that I'm showing this person saying they reviewed and organized documents and did all these things that have nothing to do with being a real estate attorney. No, you don't put it on there. Development clinic legal intern. I think I might have the wrong date that this person graduated from law school, but whatever. I worked with a partner to draft agreements. No, you don't need to say that you were you don't need to say that you were a paralegal. And especially, I saw another resident, especially if you graduated in 2022. No, you might want to say that actually that you were a paralegal then between 2019. That's actually good. So this is consistent with being wanting to work in a law firm. But this stuff has nothing to do with it. So this stuff comes off. You got to remove this. And this is definitely coming off. This is okay, but don't say you were doing paralegal work that was inconsistent with being an associate. You don't need to say that. The study of professional ethics, do you know how unethical some law firms are? Like the things that you have to do you have to do things that a lot of people would think are unethical, meaning taking the side of people that have done wrong things. So I like this. I like all this stuff. Haitian Creole is interesting, so I would probably leave that on. I don't know that you need to say conversational. There's nothing about that helps you. I don't think that someone inside of a law firm is suddenly going to ask you to start writing Haitian Creole. That's interesting. And then this is great. But look at this. Karaoke, period. So this is another thing that's important too, is when you have a resume and you're using periods inconsistently, people pick up on that. This resume is actually pretty good. It's not really doing that. But the diversity and inclusion team, okay, this is enough for this resume. I hope everyone got a lot out of that. Okay, so this person is putting an objective as at the top of their resume. So let's see how much experience this person has. This is very common. I don't like reviewing so many in-house positions because I don't know, it may not help people as much as it could. But this particular resume, this person is, let's see here, this is their objective. No one cares about your objective. Come on. No one cares. No one cares that your certification is pending. None of this stuff. These objectives and things, anything that you do at the top of your resume that's different than experience should come off. All these things, you don't need to say senior strategic, whatever this is, marketing and advertising and IP, and then all of a sudden you go into all this other stuff. Now, this is very interesting that the person you don't call yourself a subject matter expert. No, you don't. You don't even have this privacy certification. Why would you do that? So of counsel and in-house contract counsel, you're either one or the other. This doesn't make any sense. And then this person sounds like they do. This is actually a pretty interesting resume. And they are doing some things that could make them possibly quite marketable, but they're doing a lot of things that they couldn't. So this person, by the way, wants to be a privacy-related attorney. And there actually is a demand if anybody wants to do this. I don't think it's there anymore. But it was for a long time when companies were having data breaches and everything, and it's not as much anymore. But it's not as popular anymore. But there were really good in-house jobs. People were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, even more than they were making in law firms doing that. But I'm not going to get too much into this, but this doesn't make a lot of sense having all this stuff in there. You don't want to say a confidential BPO. I mean, this is crazy. You don't say something's confidential on your resume and like you show up and I can't talk about it. It's just no. This particular person needs to just, mellow this out and just say a couple lines about what they're trying to do with this particular type of law. That's it. And a couple lines, it's just no. And all of these things, when people start listing these things, sometimes what happens, and this is what I hope doesn't happen to anyone on this call, is people sometimes they get laid off, or sometimes they're not getting positions. I think there's something wrong with the resume. And so they go to these resume rewriting companies whose job, by the way, is to draw out all your experience, help you put it down, and make you feel good. That's pretty much what they do. And I'm not criticizing that and saying that's the wrong thing, but they will charge you, in some cases, thousands of dollars for this exercise. Listing all these things on a resume, listing these objectives does not help you. People have been doing this with their resume for decades, and this is what these companies do. I watched my mom do it. She used to work for a position with the state of Michigan and went to one of these people when she got laid off. And she did that. She worked for the state for 20 plus years and then got laid off or took a buyout and went and got a resume person. And this is exactly what her resume looked like. This is what happens. It doesn't help you. Law firms, if you want to get a job with them, don't care. So this experience, if you're doing a job that's not related to a title, that's not related to practicing law, what you probably want to do is just say you were in-house counsel. That's all you need. You don't need, or attorney, that's it. If you start saying 5 different titles, people are completely confused. And again, someone that's running some kind of resume company or outsourcing company of this business, or the company that's doing it, doesn't understand this. So this doesn't help. This, again, this is all related, but you want to make this as well related to this. All these bullets and things, client names, no one cares. You are not important because you worked on different clients. That no one cares. Like you're doing what you should be doing. And you can just say, basically, I was the in-house counsel or for privacy and payment related issues or whatever. That's it. Here we go. Same thing. Senior manager sourcing. You're an attorney and you're doing the same type of work. You show that you're doing technology agreements. That's what this person does. They do technology agreements and now privacy. That's all you talk about. You don't talk about the fact, why in the world would you point out that you're a contractor? You don't need to say that. No one's going to call this company that you worked at over a decade ago and ask them if you were contract or corporate counsel. You don't even need to say that. Everything should say attorney, or you can say in-house counsel if you want, but you're an attorney. You don't need to draw people away to weird titles and other stuff going on. Now this person is somehow a vice president of a commodity company. Attorney. Person's an attorney again. That's it. Attorney. All these titles are just develop contract templates. Like you developed contract templates 12 years ago. Again, no one cares. No one cares about these companies. No one. It's just, you talk about what you do. You have a few lines that summarize what your practice area does. There are on BCG, you can go and do a search for different practice areas. There's a list of practice areas on BCG, and you make yourself whatever, you choose one if you can, and this goes for everyone. So choose one practice area. Choose one practice area if you can, and write a few lines about that, about what you do. And guess what I'm going to tell you to do again? Then you ask ChatGPT to rewrite it. Write it 5 times or whatever it is. Write it for each job. So again, this is going to help you tremendously. This is another thing that if you do this, you will get more jobs and you will be a superstar. But if you don't do this, I would tell you, if it wasn't ChatGPT, to do this on your own. But if you don't do this, you're going to be in trouble because you're just basically all over the map. No one can put you in a box. Your resume is too hard to read. Do you honestly think, would you sit down and read all of these things? Would you? What do you think an employer is going to go through and read all of these bullet points? No, they're getting hundreds of resumes sometimes for a job. They don't have the time. They don't want to. They just want to look at your resume and say, does this look like that type of attorney? That's it. That's all they're looking for. They don't need to know your clients. They don't need to know that you worked on online content or Wi-Fi, none of this stuff. So I am really trying to help this person, and I'm trying to help everyone on this call that is doing this, because it's most people. When you get out of school and you've been out a few years, this is what happens. This is what happens when these sort of corrections are made to a young attorney. This person will have no problem. They worked at a good firm doing this sort of thing. Now, it's actually fine, but you don't put completed risk assessments and ensured compliance with applicable laws and regulations. This is something, again, every attorney does. So please eliminate statements about what every attorney does. Eliminate statements on your resume of stuff every attorney does. Completely crazy. Don't make people read a bunch of crap. Don't go to. So here's what happens, by the way. So a law firm or a company, just so everyone kind of understands what's going on here. Now, it doesn't always happen. Right. Don't go to resume. Write your resume. Destroy your resume. So here's what happens. People graduate from, or people go to these, and a lot of times, I'm sorry, but it's in-house. This looks like more like this is that person's actually working for a law firm, which is good. So maybe people a lot of times will get laid off, or the company will fire them because maybe they don't have money to pay them. Maybe the person's not doing good work. Maybe they're just doing some giant downsizing. Maybe a new general counsel's coming in and want their own people. It doesn't matter. But they'll send them to outplacement, basically saying, hey, don't worry, we're going to try to find you a job. And the resume company destroy the resume. Happens every time. I see it every day. So all this stuff comes out. Same thing here. You're an attorney. You talk about whatever the person's doing there. You don't need to say you're a contracts attorney. People start getting confused. Think about what you think. Contracts attorney, vice president, corporate counsel, enterprise strategic category manager, senior manager, attorney, or no, first managing counsel, strategic. So you just have to make everything very simple for the reader. Now, this just keeps going on. I don't know, maybe this person, maybe I don't know what this is, but no. So you can certainly write things that are related, but if you're an attorney, you don't need to say you're admitted to this. You can put Spanish. Now, this particular person's an ordained minister, so you're telling people that you're a Christian, which you're welcome to do. Maybe it's not Christian, I don't know what it is, but again, all this signaling of religions, of what side of things you're on. I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of hatred and stuff of Christians, but if you're an ordained minister, what does that mean? Is that something that's going to interfere with you? Is that going to make it you're not willing to do things if there's a slight bit of ethical? I don't know. Women in technology, notary, that's something that a secretary does. You're welcome to Georgia Bar Association, Massachusetts. Okay, so you could say you're admitted to those 2 bars. I like that. I have no problem with that. I don't think listing that you're a notary, it might work if you want to work in a small law firm that doesn't have a notary, but you would just say, this would be right here. You would put this under admitted. So you would just say admissions, and this is okay. Being admitted to more than 1 bar could be useful. So you would say admissions, and then you go here and you just go Mass, Georgia. You don't say Bar Association, you say Georgia, Massachusetts. Remember, everybody likes to see things that are shorter and not as much. The International Association, Future GC, I thought you were a GC. Institute of Supply Management. Okay, so this is related to what you're trying to do. So that's actually okay. I typically don't like that. Association, look, there's an extra comma here. So that's not good. So I'm going to take out this comma. I want everyone to see this. And maybe I did that, but I don't think I did. But these sort of errors will screw you up. So everything needs to be proved. Association of Corporate Counsel, that's just an association. You can just join that online. No one cares. Your Georgia Association of Women Lawyers, that's just an association. Anyone could join that. Now, the Institute of Supply Management, because this person, if they're trying to get a job, basically saying that they do all of these different things related to, see what you can see on this resume, I just want to do a couple of things. So there's a lot of things that are consistent with working in SaaS and doing agreements related to that. So a few lines about that, trying to figure out what can I do to make sure that everything is consistent here, because this is actually a pretty decent resume for maybe a credit card company, I don't know. But so just these sorts of things, again, you don't need to say you did due diligence, all this stuff. So this stuff should be fixed. And then But other than that, once you do this stuff, source in American Bar Association, no. No one needs to list that they're a member of the American Bar Association on their resume. No one needs to list that they're a member of the Association of Men or Women Lawyers. But everything that's related to this particular thing the person's trying to do will be a good resume. But again, you don't want to give people reasons to believe that you're interested in something else. I'm just going to take a quick break just for a minute. Okay, we're back. The next resume. So I think one thing I would just say as we're continuing with this is all of this stuff, I would take notes. All of this stuff will change your life. This is extremely important. All of the stuff that we're doing here literally will change the direction of your life. The whole thing, by the way, let me just see. And again, I talked about Napoleon Hill earlier. Definite purpose. All right. So let's see here. This is definite purpose is something you must create for yourself. No one else will create it for you, and it will not create itself. What are you going to do about it when? Just definite cheap aim. Where you select anything, you cannot aim too high. Meaning anything you want to do, you can do. You need to really work on that. So just having a definite purpose on your resume, because this person right here that we're looking at right now, in every resume, if you show a definite purpose, like you really want to do something, then everyone, sorry, I don't know why I'm not copying this. Everyone will understand what you are and where you want to go. So everything on your resume needs to be a definite purpose. And then there's another one. Let me see. And again, I hate to come back to Napoleon Hill all the time. I can jump around between Tony Robbins and all these different people. But I'm just giving you this because I want you to understand something that it's the best self-help book of all times. And let's see, chapter 5, specialized knowledge. Let's see if there's anything. What is specialized knowledge? To become successful, you have to become very focused on something, and you can't. The world will take advantage of people that are not focused. So if you are not focused, you will lose. So anybody can say, I want to start an electric car company. I want to start a social media site where everyone can connect. I want to become a super successful investment banker. Very few people, and an investment banker, by the way, is even more successful when they're able to be focused on an industry. So some may do size pharmaceutical companies that do this type of drug. Literally, you have to make sure that you have a definite purpose, and your resume needs to show a definite purpose, and you need to know what you want to do. So if this person says, I want to work at a major credit card company doing privacy-related work because I've done all that, then boom, you talk about everything that's related to that on your resume. And suddenly you apply to one of those companies, you learn about them and know everything about them. Your purpose is to do that. You're focused, your resume is focused, everything falls into shape. If you don't do that, you're out of luck and you won't get a job. So you're welcome to do that. Does speaking Spanish help you in a company position? Maybe. You can certainly do that. I would just I don't say licensure. You don't need that. You're not admitted to the SIP. So I guess you could put down that that's pending somewhere. But yeah, okay. So that's really about it. But this resume could be excellent if all this stuff is cleaned up, because this person's done a lot. Now, again, this person has worked for so many years, from 2006. They may want to just summarize all this, that they worked in-house and then name some of the companies, instead of having named all the people they've represented. That would be probably good, which is this previous example I showed here, which is extremely important, of making sure that you break down your resume the way that Drunk Acquaintance did. Okay, we'll move to the next resume. We're making pretty good progress on these, and hopefully I'll get to your resume if you're watching this, and if not, these lessons will be very helpful, and I'm trying to do the same one. So I don't understand this. 1999 to 2000. Oh, I see. So these dates don't make any sense. So it doesn't make any sense that the JD was awarded in 2002 when the person went there in 2000. So if you're drawing attention to the fact that you took off time, if you're drawing attention, why would you do that? You would just put the date, and people do this stuff all the time, which is why I'm showing you this particular resume. There's no reason to put this stuff up there. Now, this resume, I hope everyone can see, you don't put education : you just don't do that. What is going on in this resume? Wonder, oh, maybe this is this person's resume right here. I'm sorry, I'm still going. So this is the same resume, so let's talk about that. So you just put JD, not awarded, it's a JD in May of 2022. If you want to put May, you can. This president of Women's Law Association, if people can read your name, they know you're a woman. So what's the point? What is the docket? I've never heard of that. Who cares that you were a trial advocacy participant? You are now a privacy attorney. No one cares. No one cares you were securities analyst. No one cares you were judicial law clerk. Sounds like something you did during law school. Now, if you were law clerk after, that's fine. Advanced negotiations, advanced training, finished number one in your class out of how many people? 3? No one cares. And then, so you would put the JD awarded here, but then you would just say did first year at this law school. So all this comes off. And then you would just put here where you did your first year of law school. No one cares, by the way. I want everyone to understand this. Unless you're on law review or you've got incredible grades, no one really cares what you did in law school. They don't care the associations you were met. No one cares. Why would you care about that when the only thing that matters, like a year or so after you get out of law school, unless you did something extraordinary in law school, the only thing that matters is your experience. So no one cares about what you did in law school after 1 or 2 years. Unless you did in law school after 1 or 2 years, it's just meaningless after 1 or 2 years of practice. Why? No one cares. So let me tell you what happens when I work with really good attorneys. And so this will help everyone, help you understand what really good attorneys do. So let's say someone went to, their education was, they went to Harvard Law School, they went to Harvard Law School, and then they went to Princeton for college. No, that's all they need, literally. And this is what these resumes do. This is what the best resumes do. Then their experience is with, let's say, a really good firm, going to be like, Morrison & Foerster. Let's say they go to Morrison & Foerster. So they're Morrison & Foerster from 2000, maybe Harvard Law School, maybe 2000, and let's just take hypothetically 2019, so they have the top. Princeton, 2016, they graduated from Princeton. And then they may be at Morrison & Foerster, and they've been there since 2000. They might put summer associate. And I'm just showing you, this is what the best resumes do. So I just want everyone on this call to know what the best resumes do. And these people, by the way, do this because they are good attorneys, and they know what they know. They don't need to say that they were a member of the Princeton Women's Society. They don't need to say that they were a member of some Christian law student society. They don't. They just say Harvard Law School, and then they may say magna cum laude or whatever, something along those lines, if they have that. If not, they'll just put Harvard Law School. It's enough. That's it. You went to Harvard. Great. You went to Princeton. Great. Or if they didn't go to Princeton, they might have gone to some other school, but then they just say whatever. Maybe they say, this is something that a lot of people do, but they say member of the crew team or whatever, and whatever. The crew team, just something interesting. They're not going to put the fact that they were part of some eating club or some organization of law, pre-law. No, they don't do that. I want everyone to understand, this is what the best resumes do. And why do they do that? They do that because you don't need to highlight your weaknesses. You don't need to talk about your politics. Everyone knows what Harvard Law School means, Princeton University, I'm sorry. Everyone knows what Princeton University is. No one cares that you were the member of some association. This is all they say. And then we'll just say summer associate. They might say summer of, I don't know, summer associate might be summer. They might say, it'd be like, right, just out here, June, May of 2018 into August. August. I just want to show everyone what a good resume is, because this is crucial. May of 2018 to August 2000. In August. And I hope everyone gets what I'm talking about here. 2018. And associate. Just something very simple. Associate, August, or whatever. You don't have to say you're a law clerk. You just say associate. No one has to say I was a law clerk while I was waiting for the bar between September of whatever. And no, you just say associate, September 2019. And you might even just put the date. You can go 9, September. Present. That's it. And then you might just say, and you might even say corporate present. And then let's say corporate attorney, corporate transactional group, or whatever. They might say corporate M&A. They don't even say here, just a corporate M&A. Whatever, worked in the corporate M&A department. That's it. In the corporate M&A department. That's really it. They don't need to say a lot more than this. Now, they may mergers and M&A department. They may say a few lines about it, but that's it. There's nothing that on this resume, everything is strong. There's nothing that shows any lack of interest. There's nothing that shows, you could put here, whatever BA or BS and whatever but they're not putting on things that are telling you, I'm on one side of politics. They're not putting on these meaningless organizations. Now, if they were in the Harvard Law Review, they might get put that, but they're just not going to tell you anything that's going to detract from the strength of them. And I hope everyone understands this, because this is what you need to do if you want to have a good resume. Now, I'm not talking to you to be about this minimal, but pretty much that's it. This is what the resumes of the people that get the best jobs look like. They just highlight their strengths. Why would you highlight all these weaknesses? Do you think you need to talk about, does this look like the resume of someone that goes to Harvard Law School? And are they going to put in what happens when you do this? Just take a look at this. If you want to do this, that's up to you. You can certainly do this crap, but people are going to be like, what the hell? Like, why? No law firm is going to want to hire someone that's doing all this stuff. No one that went to Harvard Law School that belongs there is going to do this. No, they're not. I'm sorry, but working as a security analyst during law school is not going to help. Working for a Superior Court judge during law school, no one's going to list it. They'll just list what's relevant. So I want everyone to understand this. BA of chemistry or something. That's it. You don't need to. If everything's strong, like obviously some of them went to Princeton, did really well. So if they went to Harvard, obviously this person, they worked at Sample, whatever, they might write a few lines about that, but that's it. So you need to highlight your strengths. You don't need to send someone on a rabbit hole of what all these things that are just crazy. Look at this, like crazy. So if you highlight your strengths, that's it. You don't take your weaknesses, lack of commitment, lack of achievement, and highlight them, because that's all people are going to see. And then they will give you what they can. This person is great. They're going to get a job. They don't need to say a lot. No, they can put a few lines about Morrison and Forrester. They may, but that's it. Okay, so let's talk about this. And then this is just your standard resume. Okay, so here's someone that got a Juris Doctorate and got a certificate, an IP. No one cares. Come on. No one cares. No one cares you got a certificate, an IP. Is this person even doing IP? Yeah, they are. That's okay. But a legal intern. Okay, so this person graduated in 2023. So this is important. to see someone that's a new graduate and how to basically put yourself into a good position. So you don't say that you got a certificate. You don't need that. No one does. It's meaningless. You don't say that you got a 3.287. If you were a law firm, would you want to hire someone? Just think about this. If you were a law firm and had the ability to hire talented people, lots of applications, would you be impressed with someone that got a 3.287 at an okay law school? You wouldn't be. Come on, no one would be. So you don't put the fact. Now, if that puts you in the top 5% or something, then yes. But if not, really, like, you want to put that on your resume? Also, 3.287, that makes it sound like 3.287, by the way, you round up. This puts you, that's a 3.3, so you're not lying. But the other thing is 3.287, 87 rounds up. That's a 3 rule. There's a math rule. But you round up. But again, no law firm is going to be interested in someone that got a 3.3 if they can hire better people. It makes you look ridiculous. And I'm sorry. But now if you were ranked, I don't know, 23 out of 400 students or something, or even 200 or whatever, 200 students or something, that's okay. It's okay. You can list that. But you don't want to list anything that makes you look weak. Journal of International Law, that's not an honor. You could put that down there if you want, but is this person trying to be what are they doing? Alternative Dispute Resolution Honor Society. This is a trademark attorney. Anyway, okay, so no, you take that off. You don't say you're a business coordinator. You don't say you got a pro bono leadership award. That means you want to do pro bono work, unless you want to work that. I don't know what an ADRHS scholarship award is. You take that off. University Law and Sneaker Law case competition, first place. Oh, they went to Cardozo, which is a great school. So that's okay, maybe. I don't know, first place 2 times. The Sneaker Law case study, no. Cinema competition, second place, no. So I hope everyone sees this. Activities, urban business and entrepreneurship, pro bono. Again, you don't want to say on your resume that you're on one side of an entertainment Barbie student ambassador. None of this stuff matters. Like, people, what if I saw this and wonder, what was this person doing? Were they studying, or what? Order the barristers, are these actual awards? Like, none of this stuff really matters. This person, 3.5, that's okay. I would just say, if you're doing any type of Bachelor of Arts and anything unrelated to what you're doing, this is for many people on this call, I would just basically say you got a Bachelor of Arts, and you don't have to say what it was in. You don't have to say anything. Same thing with the GPA. Same thing if you were, no one knows what the Jogus thing. Now, this is actually interesting. The fact that the person was a cheerleader is fun. So that's actually interesting. People are going to like that. That's an interesting activity that a lot of people don't have. Pre-law institute, no. Study abroad, no. No one cares. If you say you studied abroad, people are going to be jealous. So I saw a funny thing last night. There's this, what's her name? I'm blanking out. I don't know why. But there was this thing where the vice president said she hadn't even been to Europe. This is in a recent interview, which she was talking about, we've been to the wall or something. But people, if you're taking these fun trips, you don't need to really talk about that on your resume. There's no reason for that. No reason. You don't have to tell people your work experience is relevant. No one cares. They just say experience. Then legal intern. I don't know what this place is. It looks to me like this person is working on trademark team. That's all you need. You don't need to basically say much more than that. So this person, January 23 to May of 2023. This person graduated in 2023. Okay. All right. I think that's okay. Law clerk. You can just say clerk or something. It's probably okay. Clerk. I don't know if you say legal intern. I'd say law clerk. It's probably better. No one's going to get mad about your title, and still call yourself a law clerk. So this is, by the way, this goes for everyone. No one is going to check up on your exact titles. This person's applying to a job. No one's going to call up and say, hey, were they an intern or a law clerk? And then that's it. That's it. And working 5 months and something is not that important. Okay, so this law clerk, extern, these short dates, by the way, I don't know. I don't know that you want to. So if this person graduated in 2023, that means they started law school 2018. So they did something before then. You don't need to talk about all these experiences you had. Again, this Harvard Law School resume that we talked about up here is not going into you don't need to. It should be self-explanatory. So you were a law clerk during law school, that's fine. If you were a law clerk, same thing. This is a law clerk. You don't call yourself an extern. Law clerk. That's it. You don't call yourself intern. These are a lot of short jobs. I mean, I don't know why they're all short, but they are all very short. And here, okay, this is actually good. These dates make sense. They're all connected. The same thing, intern, you call it law clerk. So all these changes, legal incubator. So this person graduated. So this person did this. They're a program director for the National Student Leadership Conference. This is actually interesting. This I would not normally tell someone to leave this in there, but this is interesting. So this person, I would say it's okay for many of the stuff. If you shorten it, it's going to be much better. Use ChatGPT or something. But a lot of these, the problem with a lot of the stuff, and this is consistent, like this job, and a lot of these are just very short things. So you may want to do the trick that I told you about with the drunk attorney of just summarizing all this. So I was an intern between these companies. I concentrated on IP related trademark law and that sort of thing. I do want to say, by the way, one problem with some of this focus. So if you are too focused in a practice area where there's not a lot of jobs, that may hurt you. What do I mean by that? Trademark law is there are not a lot of jobs in trademark, not a lot of jobs. So that means if you try to do trademark law when there's not a lot of jobs, that's probably not your best move, right? Trying to do trademark law when there's not a lot of jobs and putting yourself in a box like that early may not make sense. You may want to use that when applying for trademark jobs or trademark law firms, but if you're doing trademark, you might be better off just saying you're doing intellectual property or something like that, and then talk a little bit about different things. But I wanted to bring up one other problem that a lot of young attorneys make. So young attorneys make this mistake. They will often try to go into IP. This is just for everyone on the call, if that's what you're trying to do, without a tech background or without a science background. So it's okay for a trademark, but it's not for any forms of IP litigation, for just a bunch of different stuff that has nothing to do with that. So if you're trying to go into IP and you don't have anything related to that, so psychology and marketing has absolutely nothing to do with IP. Science does. So the reason is, I'll just tell you, is non-tech science people do not get admitted. I'm not trying to go into too much detail here, but do not get admitted to the patent bar. So companies And employers expect that for most forms of IP. So just litigation, everything. That's just how it is. So it's just something to think about. Okay, so this resume, there's a lot of stuff here that needs to be cleaned up. These affiliations are meaningless, so you remove those. Obviously, the person's interested in IP. This coursework, no one cares. This Harvard attorney that we talked about up here is not going to list all of their courses. No one cares. It's not relevant. It just makes them look weak, why do you put that up there? Intermediate Spanish, no one cares. These are not interesting interests. No one cares. Most attorneys are too busy trying to get good grades. So you don't put intermediate, that makes you look weak. You put travel to 30 countries, that makes people feel jealous. So I'm jealous. I have been traveling for business my entire career, and I have been to maybe 5 countries. So do not list stuff that makes you look rich. You look rich. I don't know if it's rich, or makes people envious. You would not list you play polo. You would not list. You just have to be very careful. So this is fine. Photography, snowboarding, Miami Heat Dolphins, that's great. But other than that, you don't need to really say much. Okay. Next, resume. Again, remember, short language. So you say experience. You eliminate, come on, plethora of experience. Honestly, so the problem with all this stuff is it just doesn't, would you expect, just let's put this up here. Would you expect to see this on this resume? Look how ridiculous that looks. Do you think any attorney is going to do that? And again, I'm not criticizing this person, but several fast-paced organizations in the public eye, like sounds again like something written by someone else. And I don't even, what is that objective? Again, look at this. Seeking new opportunities, that has nothing to do. I want to work I want to work as a software services attorney would be, but seeking new opportunities, I'm sorry, guys and girls, but this is ridiculous. You just don't do it. So let's go down here. Okay, so this resume, by the way, is very similar to the ones we've looked at before. So I am not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but I did want to review this because of a couple different things. So saying you're a staff attorney, you just say attorney. You don't have to say staff, okay? You never highlight that you're remote. People don't like that. If you're remote, that means you're going to want to continue working remote. So this person, by the way, let's take a look at when they got out of law school. 2001. Okay, look at this. Microsoft Office, Access, PowerPoint, Teams, and Word. So this person has been practicing for 22 years and wants us to know that they know how to use Microsoft Word. They know how to use Google Drive, email, voice. They know how to use voicemail. Or is it Google? Google, I don't know. They know how to use LexisNexis. Sorry, but I knew how to use LexisNexis and Westlaw when I was in my early 20s, 3 years into law school. Now, what's interesting about, I'm actively licensed to practice law. If this person's been working as an attorney anywhere, then obviously they're licensed to practice law. So it's the same thing here. Like this person is basically wow. So they actually they did a federal clerkship, which is pretty awesome. So this is actually very, very impressive. So I'm going to leave that on there, but you don't need to say what you did. You just need to say that you were doing that. So this particular person has had quite a few jobs. Now, I don't understand why they were an assistant attorney general and now they're doing document review and contract attorney. But what this person does, so everyone kind of understands, is their job right now is essentially doing what is called e-discovery. So that's what this person's doing. They are doing e-discovery. So instead of confusing the reader of this, they should just say, that they've been doing e-discovery for most of their career. They're not going to get a job based on all this other stuff. No one's going to hire them. I'm sorry, but I'm not trying to be rude, but that's just the facts. No one's going to hire someone that's worked as a contract attorney, now doing that, everything here, the city of doing this and doing this. So just say you're an e-discovery attorney. That's all people want to know. They don't care. So this is the job that you're set up for. Now you could work in a big law firm as a discovery attorney. You could do all sorts of things, but no one is going to hire this person if with all this stuff that has nothing to do with is not consistent. It's not consistent. And so you just basically talk about how you're a discovery attorney. If you do this, by the way, you will get jobs in law firms. You will get jobs with companies that work with contract attorneys, or staff attorneys. You will get all sorts of jobs, and you can apply to big firms and small firms, but it's just going to be very difficult for you if you do anything else. So that's the lesson of this. And I'm going to try to move through these because I wanted to get Hartwell's resume. Okay, so this is an associate. They worked for the government again. They worked for the government. Is this the same resume? Okay, so this is, sorry, let me just make sure okay, maybe I split this one. Okay, so I actually went ahead, but this is behind. So this is the e-discovery attorney. This particular resume, let's see here. Legal research for plaintiff's complex litigation firm. Then all of these other jobs. Is this the same resume? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. The resume just keeps going. That's the problem here. Okay. Again, just everything needs to be summarized. You start with the district court, and then you talk about all of these document-related jobs you've done, and that's it. Juris Doctorate, 2 Cali election in cyberspace law and a seminar. No one cares about that. No one cares that you volunteered when you were there. No one cares that it was in social science, which a lot of people think is a blow-off, so you don't say anything. No one cares about the licenses. That's that. Okay, here's another resume. A lot of in-house resumes here. I'm not going to really spend any time on this one because I think we've already gone into a lot of detail, but it's all the same stuff. This is 1994 to 2001. The person was no. So this is just unnecessary to most of the stuff. It's the same thing. And I would say if this person wants to review the resume based on everything I've said, that would be helpful. 2004, from 2004, they owned an insurance agency or something. That's okay. But yeah, come on. I'm just saying, again, you come back and you look at these resumes, like up here, and you're certainly not going to say this. Come on. Does that really matter? Best-in-class legal advice and deliverables. None of this stuff works. All comes off, and then you don't want to do it. That's that. So let's see. Summary, highly motivated, same thing. Boom, just take it all off. And a lot of these, I don't know why I'm selecting so many in-house, but there's definitely a reason for this, and I'll come back. But yeah, this is all the same stuff we've talked about with other in-house resumes. So that's the problem. I would probably remove what I would probably do with this particular resume is, again, all the stuff, you have to take it off. It doesn't help you. And it's just American Criminal Law Review. Unless the person wants to be that authorized in-house counsel, that is something that I guess that you can get in other states if you work someplace. And then board of directors, okay, that's fine. Okay. No, you don't need that. Just, okay. All right, let's move to the next one. College of law expected. Same thing, all this stuff comes off. Let me just see if there's anything worth keeping. No, the fact you're in the dean's list, no one cares. No one cares about any of this stuff. Faculty search committee, no one cares. You don't say master's in education. You just say master or master's or whatever. I don't know, it's college. Summa cum laude. You don't put education because that looks like you don't want to be an attorney. Then graduate, no. Everyone should get the idea from these resumes how everything works. Most of these, and we're doing a resume review, but I'm trying to teach everyone kind of the lessons that you need to do. This is actually very interesting. Employers love people that were doing this sort of stuff. So this is okay. No one cares about that. No one cares about your certifications as well. So that's about that. And then this person, we changed their names. So that's not that, but I don't know what happened there. But experienced compliance attorney, all the same stuff. is applicable to this type of thing. So highlighted skills, all this stuff. So what everyone needs to do here is everyone needs to summarize their experience. Can you summarize, just again, ChatGPT, can you summarize? I'm just going to say, can you summarize this in less than 35 words? So let's see what happens. This is very short, but you can see here all this stuff. If you wanted to summarize it, you would just put something like this. You could very easily summarize it this way. And I'm sorry to do it this way, but this is a very good summarize. But it's, again, even that is not good. But it takes all this information that it's just way too much. Oh, I see. Okay. Same thing here. All this stuff needs to be shortened. This resume right here has quite a few problems. I'm not going to get too much into that. Again, all this stuff needs to come off or just be shortened. Okay, this is a resume that I blocked things out, but I just wanted to tell everybody what's wrong with this. Obviously, you don't put the bar admission at the top of your resume. We talked about that earlier. There's all these this person did all this art and like basically put their picture, put a bunch of colors. Like you can see this stuff with these X's and stuff. It's a very beautiful resume as an art project. But if you spend a lot of time doing art on your resume or using weird fonts and stuff, that's going to throw the reader off. So I just want to, again, I keep coming back to this, but I want everyone to see what a good resume is, because a good resume doesn't need to talk about all this crap. This person is not going to put their picture. They're not going to put their bar admission at the top. They're not going to even talk about their bar admission. They don't need to do all this. Like, it's when you do this stuff, you're just confusing the reader and you're making it seem like that this person obviously goes and does things well. They do everything well, and that's all you need to say. But if you start making your resume into an art project with different pictures and things, that's just not going to help you. You need to fix that. And again, all this stuff here with all this stuff just doesn't work. That comes out. So this is another resume right here that's just pictures and lots of things that have nothing to do with things. And again, you remove that. And I feel sorry for people because I think that a lot of people do these things and no one tells them not to do it. It's not good. So you don't need to say, by the way, what I liked about this, and I saw the example, was the pictures, but maybe it's a different resume here, but you don't need to say you got a degree in the evening division. You don't even need to say that you went to school in August through May. You can just say you graduated then. You don't need to say that. Again, all of this ethnic stuff, like, it's okay if you want to say this stuff, it's okay. I'm not going to tell someone not to do it because I don't want people to get mad at me. But I do think you need to be careful because I think this particular association is fine, but sometimes people will list things like the Mayflower Society for, I don't know, but this means people that came over on the Mayflower. Or there's just things that kind of make things a little political and than the way you may want them. And a law firm, getting a job in a law firm is all about basically being prepared to do the work. So there are recent cases against Perkins Coie and Morrison Forrester over their policies that are pro this and that. So you just need to be very careful. I'm not going to go too far into it, but because I don't want to rub people the wrong way, but you need to be very careful. Listing the Christian Law Society, we saw a bunch of people do that. We've seen a lot of people today do all this stuff that involves things that they may not want to. But you need to talk about, all they care about is your experience in a shortened version that has nothing to do with pictures, that has nothing to do with organizations that are unrelated to being a good attorney, that have different types of practice areas, all that sort of stuff. So that will hurt you. There's nothing really that you need. So jurors can't, same thing, evening division, no one cares about that. Let's see here, fluent in Spanish, okay. Co-chair, notary public, again, additional information, all the stuff needs to come off. Again, let's go back to the Harvard resume. And would you expect to see that? Let's just see what that looks like, just so everyone can kind of get a sense of this and how ridiculous it is. Let's see here. Fluent Spanish, co-chair of the Young's Law Association, Dominican Committee Chamber, City Bar Association, New Lawyers Council. No, so this is not. So you need to aim to make your resume just look normal, just based on your achievements, not things that don't have anything to do with nothing. It's crazy. No, all this stuff comes off. So it's just about your achievements. It's about summarizing things in a very quick way. This may be one of the last resumes we're going to review, and then we may review others. I'm going to take a look at some that came in. But this is just same thing, just licensed attorney. No one cares. Licensed real estate. Maybe nice to be a licensed real estate. This is fun, like this stuff. This board of directors, and that's probably okay. Skiing, tennis, walking my wife and 4 children. All right. But again, it's a thing where women and men you're not supposed to ask them about their families. You're not supposed to ask them about personal things. Sometimes putting that stuff up there is not good. A lot of the stuff, this particular person, I'm not going to get too far into it, but they have a lot of experience. Like they've been working for a long time. So I would not recommend putting all this information on. Okay, so we've been going for 2.5 hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break for like 1 or 2 minutes. When I come back, I will look at some questions that people have asked, and I will answer them for you. And I'll start with some of the most recent questions, and then move to the older ones. And then after doing that, I'm also going to go out and see if there's any additional resumes that have come in that look interesting to me. And once I look at those, then once I talk about those, then or if I look at those, if I have any additional ones, I will come back. Just give me like a couple of minutes and I will be back. I'm going to also spend a minute or two just reviewing the resumes that may have come in right before the call and to see if there's any that look interesting. And then we'll go from there. But this has been a lot of learning today. I hope everyone can understand all this stuff. One of the things I did want to bring up just real quickly before we take a quick break is that people will, and this, I hope this will apply to almost everyone on this call. So people will go and sometimes a lot review their resumes in response to this. And what I used to do is I would do calls with those people. Sometimes I would take everyone that's on a call like this and whose resume I reviewed. And I would message them and I would say, I would like to see what you did in response to this call and see if I'd love to see you review your new resume. Even though these are not most people I can't place or anything because they don't have a lot of experience, I always do this. But the problem is, I just want everyone to understand, is people would come back, and when they come back, it would be the exact same thing. They might have taken a few lines out, but they still are so committed to all these different things that they've said on their resume that they don't want to leave it out. And I don't know how much to tell you that less is more, that you need to have a focus, you can't do this. And then people will just do this their whole career. It's like they'll just do this. They will never get the kind of jobs they want. They will never advance. They will never get to where they could be because they're doing the same thing over and over again. And they never fix this. So my challenge to you, and unfortunately, following up with people on this stuff is so exhausting because almost no one does it. Now, some people do, but very few people do. And that's the problem. If no one's doing this, where does that leave us? So you have to actually listen to what I'm saying today and make sure that you fix this. You have to go through these rules that you should have received and look at your resume and just say, am I putting stuff about not practicing law? Am I summarizing my experience that just basically means that the people reading your resume must be dumb. They must know, they must not understand all this. They must be interested in the hundreds of resumes they may get for a job, which is the case with in-house jobs. They must be interested in reading bullet points and summaries of 50 pages or 50 bullet points, they must be interested in. They must be interested in people that have other interests. They must be interested in generalists that do 15 different things. They must be interested in these things that, what the heck's going on here? Wow, what the hell? I didn't even know you could do this. But they must be interested in people that have not achieved very much, like in their law school, and are proud of these activities that have nothing to do with being strong and a great lawyer. Like, they must be interested in that. No one is. You have to understand all this stuff. You don't compliment yourself saying, I'm a forward-looking, blah, blah, blah. No one cares about that. So just keep in mind all these things. I hope, like I pray, that you will do this. But again, almost no one does. And because you're not doing this, you will continue to have problems getting jobs and getting people to pay attention to you, because it's all this verbiage. Like, an attorney's job, by the way, is to get up and make, regardless if it's a corporate transaction, it's litigation, your job is to get up, make very on-point, direct arguments that don't have a lot to do with other stuff, that don't confuse juries, that don't confuse parties reading your contract, that don't confuse people. Like, your job is to summarize things, be direct, and make a point. I've just talked for hours about resume rules, essentially, but this applies to hundreds of thousands of attorney resumes. So I don't need to write a book that's 1,000 pages long. I can summarize everything very quickly. And not only that, I could probably just avoid stuff not practicing law, avoid summaries of experience, I don't need to talk even about that. And I can write, these are long articles about this stuff. But at the same time, you don't need to read these articles. Everything needs to be very easily summarized for your audience. So that's that. I will come back and answer some of these questions, and then we will wrap this up. And I hope there's some good questions. That would be very helpful. I will be back in just a minute or two, and I'm going to look at some additional resumes to see if there's anything else I can teach you about resumes that may have come in. But I think we've learned quite a bit today. All these changes are going to definitely help you. And again, if you have questions and you haven't asked them, because I'll try to answer them, and I'll find ones that are the same. But that hopefully will help everyone. So I will be back in just a few moments while I look at other resumes and see if there's any other lessons I can teach you today. All right, so I'm going to go through questions right now. The resumes that came in, I'd already actually seen before, so I hope that helps. So let me go to the questions right now, and quite a few. Okay, and this is actually good. It looks like there's some fairly good questions, so give me 1 second here. Resume review. And by the way, I am going to send this to everyone who was on the call. You can go through the examples. So anyone that registered, I'm going to send these files to you. And I'm going to go through and probably review it again to make sure that there's no personal information. But I think we did a pretty good job of blocking these out. Just as a heads up, if you are able, if you want to go on the next resume review, which will be, I guess, next quarter, whenever that starts. So the beginning of next quarter, and you fix up your resume, I would love to see it. And if you just note that you did it again, I will compare your new resume with the old one. If you could send both of them, so that would be helpful if you did that. And also that. So this person, actually, this is a good question. Someone asked, this question is about the Delaware bar. So yes, it is actually, if you're admitted to Delaware, it's a very good, look, I can't spell. If you're admitted to Delaware, it's actually a very good thing to, no, I spelled Delaware. Oh, there we go. It's a very good thing to list that. The reason is that it's difficult. I don't know there's some sort of reason. I've been doing this for my entire career, but I should know, but it's very important. I think there's certain types of law that you need to be. There's a lot of corporations and things that are headquartered in Delaware. There's also a lot of litigation that's filed there because the companies are in Delaware. So it's actually is worth listing that you're in Delaware, because it's something that can help law firms get business. So that's actually very important. Okay. And these are good questions. So I'm going to go through every question that's here And as long as they're not repetitive, I'm going to that. So I've heard interest about personal issues. So when you start listing things, you don't want to list things that are class, religion, meaning class, meaning economic class, religion, ethnic, which would you want to list at this point in time that you're Palestinian? I don't know, you can, or you're part of some group, or you're a member of the Russian armed forces when the U.S. is boarding campaign. You can, if you want. Countries out of favor, you're welcome to do that. But if you do that, that's not going to help you most of the time. So you need to be careful, very careful. So just, you don't list things that have to do with that. Listing hobbies can be interesting. So you could say model cars, or you could say go-kart racing, just fun stuff. That cooking, you can list stuff like that. These are just fun things that almost like things that you would list on a dating site or something that are just interesting. You can do that. But if you do other types of things, then I just think you need to be very careful. So personal interest or hobbies, class-based, religion, ethnic, countries out of favor, interests that are politicizing one way or another. So politicizing means very liberal or liberal, liberal, conservative, whatever. So you just want to, again, I just want to point out to everyone that it wasn't like this, by the way, when I was younger and trying to look for legal jobs. But at this point in time, there's basically class, there's wars, in the country. There's wars of people of different economic classes. Like you have the Midwest or middle states are for Trump and the coast are all for Biden. It's just, you have all these different things going on. And Texas is one way and Florida is another. So the more you paint yourself into a corner with these things and you take sides, that's going to hurt you. I have relatives in Ohio, and drive down the street and they're not in big cities in Ohio, they're outside, but you drive down the road and everybody's got a Trump sign in front, or did. So you just, in saying that it just doesn't work. So you can't take sides in any of this stuff. Your resume, you're an attorney. Like, your job is to represent people that are, regardless of their political leanings or anything. So if you get too far into that in your resume and you take sides, people aren't going to like that. So you just need to be very careful. Again, the country is at war. Like, you have very liberal people with policies. You have very conservative people with policies. You have people that are poor, that are raiding stores, and just, you have all this stuff going on. And if you decide you want to be on the side of one of those, you're welcome to, but it's going to screw you up. So you just don't put anything. You don't take sides. You're an attorney. No one cares. Now, if you want to run for office or something later, you can do that. But other than that, you need to be can't do it. Okay, next question. What are your thoughts of using innovative formats or design elements on our resumes to stand out from the crowd? And do you have any examples when this has been particularly effective, or can you show us? No. So there is no design for your resume. So no design is necessary. And as a matter of fact, it is absolutely not something you should do. If you want to submit a brief to a court, you don't put flowers and pictures, and no, a brief to a court is just very direct. A contract is very direct. A business transaction document is very direct. So if you want to do things that attorneys don't do, and when they're practicing, to stand out as someone that's not an attorney, that's frankly trying to get attention and draw you away from average to poor qualifications most of the time, meaning I'm not saying someone that's doing this, then knock yourself out. But it does not work. It does not work, because this is just not what attorneys do. I've never seen a resume of someone that went to an Ivy League law school and practiced at a big firm do something where they start using innovative formats or design elements. Never seen it. Now, maybe someone's done it somewhere along the way, but the only time I see this is when someone doesn't have good qualifications and hasn't done great in law school. then they do it. So let me just explain something to you. It doesn't matter where you went to law school. It doesn't matter what your experience is. You could say, I went to, I don't know, I'm not trying to bring up bad schools that don't have good reputations. So let's just say you went to bad fourth-tier law school. And you don't need to put different formats and colors, and it's just going to look ridiculous because there's no reason to do that. That's not how attorneys work. No one does that. So you just can't do it. You have to not do it. I don't know what else to say, but it's ridiculous. This is not something that works. It's going to set you back. It's going to look like you don't know what being an attorney is. You just don't do it. I don't know what else to say. Okay, so this is a good question right here, and I appreciate all the questions people are asking. This is actually helping a lot of people when you ask these. So these are great questions, and if anybody's got more questions, they keep being this good. I'll stay here all day if I need to. But what would you have any advice for young attorneys who practice in multiple areas but have finally decided in the sector they want to practice, even though that sector is one where the young attorney has had the least experience? Do you advise focusing? Okay, so when you're a young attorney, no one really cares if you've got different types of experience. But again, resumes should have the scent that you're interested in something. And let me explain to you how that works. So example, and that helps. An example would be teacher that taught for 5 years or 10 years or whatever, taught for 5 years, goes to law school, majored in education or got a major in education in college. Okay, so this person is a great candidate for working in education law, right? So this is what happens to people like that. They get a job in education law. So that's actually pretty good. Or maybe some sort of school law where they're suing schools for special accommodations, whatever. But these people get jobs if they figure out how to look that way. So then they may, if they other types of experience, they would just basically, that's what they want to do. They would say, I'm focused. I have this, just like we talked about with the Napoleon Hill stuff. They would say all that. So they would look focused. I see a lot of resumes of a person who was a nurse for 3 years, or for 5 years, studied nursing or studied nursing in college. I don't know, and something like that. So these people will get this person education law, education. So all I'm saying here is, and I'm not going to firms that's in education related position. So I'm not trying to say to you that you need to do this, but if you are in a position like this, and then how to get a job in healthcare law. So these people, by the way, get great jobs. It doesn't matter a lot of times where they went to law school. They focus their effort on these different types of things. So when I was a young attorney and first became a recruiter, I would see these people. I would go and interview. I remember interviewing with this law firm in Detroit. I think it was called Hahnemann Miller. And I was interviewing with someone that did healthcare law. And she'd gone to Wayne State. And there was nothing special about her background. But she'd been worked in a hospital or something, and wanted to do healthcare law. Got a job at this top firm in Detroit, which is, back then was an awesome firm. I think it still is an awesome firm. And I remember the head of recruiting, Dave Fulton, now is the head of the firm. But anyway, so the point is that your resume needs to look like there's some reason for you being interested in that practice area. And so this is what these people do. And what I'm saying is then I got out and I would start seeing these people that went to these not great law schools or didn't do that, working in these huge firms and that made out of nothing special about their academics suddenly. And so these people, the scent of their resume looks like they want to do something. It's the same thing with engineers. So people will go to school for mechanical engineering. And then they'll take the patent bar, and then maybe they're an engineer. Those people all get great jobs. So it's just, you have to have, as patent attorneys, so you have to have something that looks like some sort of focus on your resume. So I'll just show you, go to engineering school, school, majored in, this is very common. So they major in, I don't know, mechanical engineering, or let's say they major in physics. Let's just say engineering school, major in mechanical engineering, just an example. Work as an engineer for 3 years. And then I'm just showing you this example of these people that get awesome jobs. 3 years. Then go to engineering and school, major in engineering, then go to night school or something at a third-tier law school. So what happens to these people? Then maybe they get out of school, maybe they start a small firm, take the patent bar and work on patents for a mechanical related patent, whatever. So, or hard science patents. So these people, and they may not get a job in a big firm because they went to a third-tier law school, maybe didn't do that well. But these people eventually end up at huge firms. It's just invariably, if they want to. They don't always. Patent attorneys are somewhat unusual, but because they sometimes don't care a lot of times. But the point is that you can, if you look like there's some sort of focus or some sort of scent on your resume as a student, then you're going to do well. Now, if you're all over the place, no. So, but you have to, the thing what the patent attorneys do is they look like that. And so people are like, wow, I like that. The nurse that wants to do healthcare law looks like that. The teacher that wants to do education law or sue school districts or defend school districts or whatever, or colleges looks. So you have to look like something. If you don't look like something, you look like nothing. So let me just write it down. If you don't look like something, and this is what all the resumes we saw today were doing, everyone. So like something, you look like nothing. And that's how the job market will treat you. That's as simple as that. Market will treat you. So that's it. So that you have to understand this point. So if you do not look like something, you look like nothing. And that's exactly how the job market will treat you. It will treat you as nothing. And so is that something you want? I don't think so. It's up to you. But so do you have, notice some job postings specifically? Yes, of course they do. Do you have any advice for condensing extensive legal experience? Yes, everything I've talked about today. You can also use ChatGPT, which I recommend. Wouldn't have recommended it 6 months ago when it was new or whatever, but I recommend it now. It works. I would use ChatGPT. I would summarize multiple positions under one heading, which we talked about. Meaning, you just basically you say in-house counsel for whatever associate. There are 5 different firms. You would just say associate, you would just list the fact associate at different firms, and then you would discuss it in the experience. That's what you do. Now, one thing that sometimes corporate attorneys, patent attorneys, other people will do is they will have a transaction sheet, which you can do. But other than that, anybody that reads your resume knows what a patent attorney does or what a technology, so you don't want to give people all this information that's not going to help you in any way, because all it's going to do is drive people away from you. And so you need to be able to summarize things. The job of an attorney, and this is something a lot of people never learn, and this is one of the problems that I see when attorneys go years without getting a law firm position, and then they list all this jibber jabber in the resume. The job of an attorney is to condense things. It's coherent and easy to understand language to make a point that allows others to reach a conclusion. That's it. You don't need to list all this stuff. It doesn't make a good impression when you list a lot of stuff. That's it. But you need to understand that. I don't know what else I can do. Every resume we've looked at today is not doing that. I'm guessing that these people are showing up. You're showing up a lot of times because you're having a difficult time not getting as many interviews as you would like to believe. And that, unfortunately, is the reason why. Okay, so this question, what are your thoughts of incorporating multimedia? Nope. I've never seen it work. Law firms on a traditional resume. Now, law firms will Google you and look at whatever you put out there, but they're not going to be impressed if you're just talking about your resume for the world. They may be impressed if you're talking about an element of whatever type of law you're applying for, or interested in, and something along those lines, or if you're professional skier and you have vision, those sorts of things, but they're not going to be interested in this other stuff. Okay, this person says, I was treasurer of the Black Law Students Association. No, so no one cares about if you were treasurer of the Christian Law Students Association. You're treasurer of no one cares. Just because you were able to watch the money of some organization, it's pretty much not something anyone's interested in knowing. It's going to detract from what really matters. So what really matters is not law school, is law school performance. That's it. School performance and work experience. And that's it. There's nothing else. That's all that matters. So you don't need to do anything else but that. So I was talking to my daughter last night, who's a junior and interested in going to a really high ranked college. And she was upset that she didn't get on the international club of people that have some international thing that was just completely meaningless. She didn't get on it. And yet she's taking all these APs and doing well, has all these really pretty impressive things. I don't know, she's president of her class or something, or maybe, I don't know, but these great things. But then just putting all this kind of meaningless stuff, like association, no one cares about that. They care about how you did in your APs. They care about your grade point. If you're applying to a school that needs ISCT scores, they're going to care about that. But that's it. They're not going to care about do you think a college is looking at your resume and thinking, wow, this person was a member, did this? Or they're looking at a law school is looking at your resume and saying, wow, this person was a chair of the Episcopal Students Association or something. No, they don't care. No one cares. So you just have to think about leaving all this stuff off. Let's see. This person is a different one. So this person asked, as a legal recruiter, you've seen a lot of resumes. Can you recall a time when you were pleasantly surprised by a creative out-of-the-box thing? Absolutely not. By a creative out-of-the-box approach to presenting legal credentials on a resume. What made it stand out? No, I've never seen a resume like that worked. I've never seen a law firm hire one of my candidates with a creative resume. I've never heard of a candidate getting hired by a decent firm. Like when I say decent, no, I've never seen it. And let me tell you how much experience I have. I have reviewed, let me just tell you how high this number is. I have over 600,000 resumes that have applied to work with our company over the past 20 plus years. That's more than half or close to half of the attorneys in the entire United States. So I have seen a lot of freaking resumes. I'm sure I've seen everyone on this call's resume. So I've never worked with. No, it's just no, you don't want to do this crap on your resume. I don't know what else to say. Okay, this person asked you a good question, and I'm very happy for this person. This is I think one of the person that had, the Black law students and all this stuff on the resume, and we spent a lot of time on it. And I'm glad because I hope I helped. And I think this person's asked a bunch of questions. I'm going to answer them. I've answered a couple. Sorry for the flurry of earlier questions. One question I have, should I remove the year that I graduated from undergrad, 2014, since it may bring to the attention of what I did between 2014 and 2019, the year I graduated from law school. Currently, my resume undergrad is 2014, law school 2022. No, you don't, unless you did something before 2014 and 2017. I did a few jobs completely unrelated to law. No one cares what you did. Now, if you did something like you were an accountant or you did something that is very interesting, that relates to what you're trying to do as a lawyer in terms of the type of job you're trying to get or anything related to that, then yes, you can definitely list that stuff on your resume, those jobs, if they're consistent. So what would an example of that be? Again, it's the same thing we talked about earlier. if you were a nurse for 5 years and you studied nursing in college and now you want to be a healthcare attorney, fine. If you want to be a patent attorney and you did all this stuff, fine. If you want to be an education attorney, if you want to be a corporate attorney and you worked as an analyst in a bank or something, sure. But other than that, no, there's no reason to do that. Let me see. Okay, sorry, I'm just reading this question. I should be reading it in front of everyone. It's on another screen. So Richard Herman, another prominent legal employment expert and job hunting expert and author, recommends people list experiences that can transfer and provide context for actual practice. People who go to law school, to a law office, often have little real-world practical experience from across business and democratic. Okay, so let me just tell you, I don't really care about, I do care, and I certainly will read information by different people if it suits me, but all I care about, let me just explain it to you. My entire job and existence is not based on doing things like this. I certainly love it. That's why I do these webinars. My entire job and existence that supports 100 to 800 plus employees over my career. Now, when I was doing 800 employees, it was different. I was in student loans and other things, but I was marketing with loans to attorneys. So my entire job and existence that supports 800 plus attorneys is based on, and that has been for 25 years, is based on my ability, and I want everyone to understand this is very important, my ability to get attorneys permanent law firm positions. So I could sit up and talk to people and act like I'm a freaking big deal all day, but that's just complete BS. Like, the only thing that makes me able to support my family and hundreds of employees is and offices and servers. Just our servers are like $28,000 a month now. This is just for traffic to websites and gathering jobs. Only way I can possibly do that is to tell you what works and what doesn't and show you. I can't possibly sit around. If I sat around and just lectured and wrote books, and that's complete BS. I could do that, but my advice here is what gets you a job and works. It's nothing about what other people are recommending. Now, I have no problem with other people. Maybe this person's for everyone, but no, I don't think the only thing that I recommend is to focus your resume on something. I don't care. A lot of the resumes we saw today were done by resume companies. So my advice, as simple as it may be or difficult, is just based on what supports my employees. What can I do to make sure that I'm able to make hundreds of placements a year to make sure my company and the people there are stay employed? And if I don't do that, I'm in trouble. So that's all I care about. I could sit around New York and write books or whatever, but that doesn't get people jobs. And because I'm learning about this stuff every single day, and because I'm getting feedback and making mistakes and doing things differently. Okay, so this is a good question. Someone has questions about being a foreign lawyer and CV detailed his experience for U.S. law firms. So I'm going to say something that's fairly disappointing for a lot of people that are foreign attorneys. So this person says, can you go through an example, perhaps, of a CV of a foreign lawyer and how to tailor those experiences for U.S. law firms? Okay, so I'm going to say something that's disappointing, but you may not like it. It's just not great. So Harvard Law School has an LLM program. There's all these LLM programs all over the country where people come over and they go to all these law schools from foreign countries, and the law schools take $100,000 from them or whatever it is in order to sit in classes for a year. I remember when I was practicing, I don't know how it's changed now, but Harvard Law School used to take 2 attorneys or 2 people for their LLM program from all these different countries all over the world. It was always 2. And these hundreds of attorneys would graduate each year. And the year the person I knew graduated, they did get a job in the US, but didn't stay. They couldn't hack it because they couldn't even distinguish between, civil law and common law, which is pretty funny, but they did pass the bar. there were only 3 people in the entire class that got jobs with U.S. law firm. It's very hard for you to come over as a foreign lawyer and get hired. Here's the problems are visas. It's like, why would a law firm want to involve themselves in that if they can hire U.S. attorneys? Why? Why would they do that? Why would a law firm involve themselves in that? Would you? I don't know. You might, but no. And people that come over from other countries, they leave. Foreign attorneys leave. They go home. Wouldn't you? Foreign attorneys leave. They leave. No. So that doesn't work. They don't, because they don't have any connection to the U.S. They leave. So you can go look at all these big law firms in New York, for example, and unfortunately, almost all the positions for foreign attorneys at big firms there are temporary positions. For 1 year, there'll be some kind of program. So it's very hard to make it work. All day, I see resumes from attorneys that may have worked in the foreign offices of very prestigious U.S. law firms all over, and they have an exceptionally difficult time getting positions in the U.S. Now, even after the LLM program and having worked at a U.S. law firm, you said, why wouldn't you go back to the U.S. office of this giant law firm? And it just doesn't happen. They don't get hired. So that's just how it works. Foreign lawyers that want to get positions in the U.S., it certainly can happen. But what you need to do in almost all cases is, in addition to your LLM, you need to get a JD. Now, I've seen all sorts of people come over and get JDs that are foreign attorneys and get jobs. It's the JD that matters. The JD matters because everyone knows, because you're competing. JD matters because you are competing with other U.S. attorneys, competing on a level playing field. So what does that mean? It means you're competing against other U.S. attorneys. Firms can judge your performance, judge how you are compared to other others. Unfortunately, LLM programs, just as all graduate programs, often have massive grade inflation. So there's no meaning to the grades, and it's just meaningless. I mean, there may be some meaning to it, I don't know, but a JD, your performance is measurable. You're comparing. So if you graduate from the top 5% of your class and you're a foreign attorney, then yes, with the JD, law firms are going to be interested in you, but not with the LLM most of the time. You can try, but I'm just telling you, man, I think it's a ripoff. I think that people are, and again, I'm just telling you this, again, I want to be clear. This is to help foreign attorneys, people thinking of going to LLM programs, whatever. It doesn't matter the prestige of the school. None of this matters, because I'm just telling you, it doesn't work almost every time. Like, it may work 2% of the time, but the grades don't matter. The firm you're coming from doesn't matter. Again, I saw a woman from Venezuela and Florida the other day that got her job at not a great firm, but a good firm. And I don't know how she did it, but she married a U.S. person or something. But you can do it. But again, my entire job, I just want to make you understand, in existence for 25 years is based on my ability to get permanent law firm positions for people. I don't know in the history of our company, with 25 plus years of representing tens of thousands of attorneys looking for jobs, I don't think I've ever been able to get a U.S. law firm interested in an LLM. Now, there are some actually very important exceptions. I've done it with, for some reason, the law firms love Australian attorneys. So there's an article I wrote about that. So I've done it with some Australian attorneys. I've done it with some attorneys, but not many. And the final point I want to make is, it's very funny when people get a JD. I saw this one example of some Chinese guy that came over and was went to University of Nebraska Law School or something, and did well there, and then got a job working in this firm in Nebraska somewhere, not a huge, representing people that were injured by tractors or something. It was very funny. And then his resume just talked about it. I loved it. I thought it was just the cutest thing I'd ever seen. And I was representing him, but he ended up getting a job or something at another firm in Nebraska or something, or maybe it was Kansas, doing something similar. And I didn't place him, but he was getting jobs. So if you get a JD, you can definitely get positions. It doesn't necessarily matter that much where you went to law school, but if you get a JD in Nebraska, you're obviously going to probably end up in the kind of work that a Nebraska attorney does. If you get a JD of Columbia or NYU or something, you'll end up in very good firms, probably in New York. But the JD is generally the most important. I didn't want to spend too much time. So someone said, where can we grab articles? I did send out the information to people about how you should have received the book, or a little booklet I sent out about the top resume rules. Okay, what's your badge? So I think you mean attorneys older than 15 years removing their graduation. I actually think I saw some resumes like today or over the week that were people that graduated from law school in the 19, I don't even know how it's possible. Would they be 60s? They'd be 26. And then, but how many years is that? It's like 50, 55 years? Is that 57 years? 57 years plus 26 makes them 83. If you graduated in the 1960s, if you're like older than 70 or I don't know, 60, I don't know, but I would say you may want to remove your graduation year. But at some point, if you're very old, law firms are going to expect that you probably want to remove it. I mean, what is very old? I don't know. People can practice into if Biden runs for president, they'll be 83 or something. So you can certainly, attorneys can work their entire lives, and I've seen it. I remember once I had my first divorce, I was represented by this attorney that was really old. He was like in his 80s or something, and which was great because he had no fight in him. It just it wasn't expensive. It was just a great experience all around. But the point is that he was practicing, and then I used to drive by his office for the next 7 or 8 years, and he was still there. And so he must have been in his 90s. And then one day I just noticed the offices for sale and everything was closed up. So he obviously died or something. But the point is that you can practice law forever. But if you're trying to get a job with a firm or with a company and you're that old, obviously the law firm, most of these employers are going to want to hire people that are younger. It's not age discrimination, but you just need to be very careful about that. Okay, this person wrote, I was terminated for 21 years, along with 4 colleagues. So the reason for leaving? No, people leave in-house firms and companies all the time when they're older. So you just can say you're unemployed. You should never say that you were fired because of age discrimination or because you were older. 50 is not very old for an attorney, but you shouldn't be putting any of the reasons why you left a firm and all that sort of thing on your resume. No, you don't say anything. And sometimes if it's firms, new management comes in, you don't have business. If it's a company, a new general counsel comes in and wants their own people. So there's all sorts of reasons. The nice thing is if you were there 21 years, that's one of the most important things they can see because you obviously commit to jobs and environments and we're doing a good job. So that's great. I don't think that you have to put anything else on your resume. You don't have to say anything. The fact you were able to work there 21 years shows you do good work, you get along with colleagues, you're committed, you don't jump around. So that's awesome. So let me take a look at this question real quick before. Okay, so this is a good question. So I'm going to answer this one. I'm just going to put it up for what you see first. Give me 1 second. Okay, so this question is perfect sense to tailor resume to make it highly focused. Example, take someone who's been a solo practitioner for years and they apply for a job in one area, let's say personal injury. On their resume, maybe they wrote personal injury, not this other practice areas. Let's say they had one personal injury case a year. So this is, I would lead with personal injury, and I would say it was a solo practitioner that did personal injury, working on personal injury cases, and I love it, and also worked on some other types of matters. You could say that, but you don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to, if you want to do personal injury, by the way, is something that's not that difficult to learn because it's not usually very difficult. But there's, in terms of the the mechanics of it. It's not like learning about how to be a patent attorney or commercial litigator. It's just different. So if you're applying for a personal injury attorney job, you wouldn't want to maybe list any other practice if you did a bunch of other things, but you'd want to basically give the employer the sense that it's something you could do and leave it at that. So you don't want to go into too much detail about all of that stuff. Can you a resume writer that could talk about, and this is the last question, incorporate everything you've taught to us today? Fortunately, I do not do resume writing, but I do. It's not, anyway, it's just, so I don't know of a resume writer that can do this. I think that, again, all I care about is what supports my employees and gets people jobs and keeps my company in business. And so I'm just teaching you the stuff that I know works, which I don't know a lot of people do that because they might not be in the same position I am, having to support a company. But those are some of the things that I would recommend. Is just looking very closely at the stuff that I've talked about today. And that's where I would leave it. Just go through and rewrite your resume doing that. I really do recommend, so I write ChatGPT. I would recommend the resume rules that you should have been sent. And I would also recommend reviewing, there's tons of articles and webinars and things that I've done. So I'm reviewing the materials that I make, that I've done on BCG. And there's a lot of stuff. So I think you can pick up all this. You should not need someone else to do it. The reason is because attorneys are expected to read things and digest them and then come up with conclusions and do stuff based on that. So anyone could do this, and it shouldn't be, that difficult to do based on all this information. I know we've talked about a lot today. This webinar will be replayed. It will go up on our website soon, so you can rewatch that when that's done. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for staying on this call. I know it's a long call. Again, people that watch this stuff and spend time and attention watching these webinars, I've seen incredible things happen to people's careers. People will come back to me, and it happens quite a bit, literally now every few weeks, that people that are very successful practicing law will say that this material that they've learned, that they've been studying, is turning their careers and lives around. And the thing about that is that I wanted to say is most people, they become very successful, but most people do not come back and thank you. So it's okay. They think they did everything on their own, which everything I've taught you today does mean you do it on your own. I have nothing to do with me with success, but it's you being hungry for the information that helps you, and also in listening and taking advice from people with experience. And very few people do that. Most people think they know everything. And so the ability to do that, not just my advice, but other people that, whether it's law firms or other people, to incorporate that into what you do, or people, mentors and things, can help you. I would commend everyone that's on this call. I think that it can definitely, this stuff will make you much more successful and throughout your career, and make you do much better. I'm certainly impressed with everyone here. I think that you care about your career and your life, and this, the more of the stuff you listen to, the more you watch, the more you read. Now, you don't have to just read all my stuff. You can read anyone's, but the more you absorb into your practice, the better you'll do. I did give some recommendations today about a book that I keep coming back to again and again. It's public domain, so you can find it and read it online, but it's Think and Grow Rich. I think that that's important. I think that there's a lot of people, I listened to Tony Robbins when I was younger. I thought he was much better. Impactful. I've listened to lots of motivational things. It doesn't have to be that. It can even be religion. I don't care, but something that motivates you and gives you direction. I like Think and Grow Rich because I think it's very direct, and the lessons are fairly simple. There's only 5 or 6 of them, or 10 maybe big ones, but anything that helps you, gives you guidance in your career. And the only other thing I would say, just as a final note, is the people that you get advice from and the people you follow, and should be people that have actually succeeded in what they've done or understand it and have experience doing it. That means if you get your resume done, you don't necessarily want to go to some resume company that has nothing to do with attorneys getting jobs or whatever. You just need to be careful who you follow and the advice you get. And typically the people that are most successful are the best to follow, or people that have actually succeeded themselves, or whatever you're trying to get advice from. Thanks again for everyone that was on this call. I think it's just awesome that you're able to do this and spend all this time doing it. And I will, if I didn't get your resume today, I apologize that there's just a lot to cover. And then I do have a couple, I think I have a pretty exciting webinar next week. It's about an article I recently wrote, so I'm excited about that. And again, thank you everyone for being on this call. And I will hopefully talk to everyone. You'll be back next week. The only other thing I want to say is in terms of this, the information we covered today, I am going to make sure that it was sent. It's not, these notes are not necessarily going to make sense, but I will make sure that I send all the resumes and things that we reviewed today with all the personal information removed and all the notes that you can look over, and hopefully that'll help you condense everything. So thanks again. And I do appreciate everyone being here and spending so much time today learning about it.